Chapter 135. In the face of Lu Cheng's following low kick, Dong Yi had no time to retreat. He could only twist his waist and pull out his leg. Using his leg as his foot, he straightened his leg and kicked out. Bam! When the 2 feet collided, Lu Cheng's calf tightened. He pushed his knee and directed the rebounding force to his thigh, and then to his waist and abdomen, straightening his spine. He used Dong Yi's foot as the ground to complete the second force. His right hand punched out quickly and fiercely. After numerous actual battles, especially the diversion force during the fierce battle with Wei Xingtian today, his mastery of the 24 blizzard strikes seemed to have improved to a higher level. He was actually able to connect the follow-up attacks in such an unimaginable way. There was really a feeling of continuous howling of the brutal blizzard. Dong Yi originally wanted to take advantage of the situation to dodge and open up the distance. He wanted to deal with it with his best flexible fighting style. However, before he could do anything, Lu Cheng's attacks came one after another. They were crazy and fierce, leaving no chance for him. He had no choice but to hurriedly raise his left arm, retract his right foot and step on the ground. He lowered his center of gravity, turned his waist and back fiercely, vibrating his joints and sending out a swing force. Bang! Lu Cheng's fist hit the middle of his arm. His body shook involuntarily. However, because his opponent reacted hastily, and he had a lot of experience, he stepped on the ground with his right foot, wriggled his spine, straightened his waist, and pulled his body back. Then he shook his left arm and shot out his fist like a spear, forcing Dong Yi to give up dodging again, and hit him with his palm. This made Lu Cheng very happy. He launched 24 blizzard strikes one after another, constantly borrowing strength and taking advantage of the situation. Each punch was heavier than the previous one, and each kick was fiercer than the previous one. The more he fought, the crazier and fiercer he became. The cheers of the audience gradually died down, as if they were holding their breath. Dong Yi was on the verge of collapsing under the violent snowstorm. He knew that if this continued, he would be beaten to a pulp. His opponent's current aura gave him a feeling of crushing everything in its path. I can't wait any longer. With a twist of his waist and back, he abruptly pushed his feet inward and sent a violent spiral force to the ground. The ring immediately trembled, like a house that was shaking in the thunder. There was a faint clanging sound that reverberated in the air. Dong Yi's shoes burst open. His palms were like rolling thunder, fiercely and terrifyingly striking towards Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng continued to borrow strength. At this moment, his momentum was at its peak, so he wasn't afraid. He visualized the lightning and fire stance and mega avalanche. He lowered his center of gravity and leaned his arched leg to one side to support himself against the ground. With a mighty and unstoppable momentum, he swung his right arm and struck out a mountain blast punch. He met attack with attack, met force with force, and did not retreat an inch. Bang! With one fist against 2 palms, Lu Cheng and Dong Yi's bodies both swayed backwards. They were evenly matched. At this moment, Dong Yi's abdomen suddenly wriggled, and his throat opened. Go! Thunderclaps exploded. The sound of thunder shook the heavens. Lu Cheng didn't expect Dong Yi to use his unique skill in such a situation. His head buzzed for a moment. Waves seemed to appear in his frozen heart lake, forming a whirlpool and breaking the ice layer continuously. This made him feel dizzy, and his throat was almost filled with the smell of rust. He could no longer maintain his center of gravity and stumbled backward. Fortunately, he didn't underestimate Dong Yi. He maintained a cautious posture and bit the tip of his tongue at the critical moment. The stinging pain woke Lu Cheng up instantly. He quickly adjusted his center of gravity and kept the momentum of retreating, hoping to increase the distance and avoid the continuous attacks. However, Dong Yi didn't feel good after using his killing moves. He took a step back and then pounced again. He visualized the speed of thunder in his mind. He bounced his back and caught up with Lu Cheng in a few steps. His right palm formed a knife and suddenly chopped towards his opponent's throat. Lu Cheng just regained his balance and didn't have time to react. He could only twitch his shoulder and raise his right arm to block in front of his body. Bang! When the knife palm chopped Lu Cheng's arm, Dong Yi's left hand formed a bird's beak and quietly poked out, pecking at Lu Cheng's waist. Right palm leading, left palm poking silent attack. This was the most dangerous killing move. Once the peck hit, Lu Cheng's waist would be crippled. At this moment Lu Cheng, whose heart lake had been frozen again, suddenly felt his hair stand on end, as if he had sensed some kind of danger. Although he hadn't learned the basics of ice mirror, after so many days of hard practice, his condensation stance's sensing ability had improved a lot. With the advantage of his advanced meditation, he could simulate some of the feeling of absolute reaction. However, some was still some. Lu Cheng could only sense the change of his hair standing on end. He couldn't sense how and where the enemy attacked. Without thinking, he tightened his right thigh and gave a fierce side kick to Dong Yi's genitals. He was using offense as defense. Dong Yi certainly wouldn't trade his life for Lu Cheng's waist. Seeing this, he gave up the Dark Thunder palm, lowered his center of gravity, and quickly pressed down his left palm to block Lu Cheng's kick. Lu Cheng withdrew his kick, turned around, and swept out his left leg. Bam! His left leg straightened like a soft whip, and kicked towards Dong Yi's knee joint, forcing his opponent to block with his leg. After the collision and rebound, Lu Cheng took advantage of the momentum and launched a brutal blizzard attack again, bringing the situation back to the beginning. From the moment Dong Yi used the thunderbolt explosion, to the moment everything calmed down and returned to normal, the entire audience seemed to have experienced a great drama with ups and downs. Their cheers and encouragement for Dong Yi's victory had just reached their throats, but before they could reach their mouths, they abruptly stopped and were forcefully swallowed back down. Yin Zhika in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club seat didn't have much reaction. Compared to the battle between Lu Cheng and Wei Xingtian, the danger just now seemed to be nothing. Deep in her heart, she seemed to be sure that Lu Cheng would be able to resolve the crisis. Of course, worry, nervousness, fear and other emotions were instinctive and couldn't be completely controlled. This made her body tremble slightly, and her hands unconsciously clenched, as if she was praying. Behind Yin Zhika, Sun Jian, Li Mao and the others let out a long sigh. Until now, they had just walked out of the danger just now. After a while, Dong Yi once again felt the terror of Lu Cheng getting fiercer and fiercer. He almost had the illusion that Lu Cheng would never stop. He took a deep breath, as if there was a thunder in his body, pulling at his abdomen. Open! Another thunderbolt from the clear sky, and Lu Cheng's movement slowed down. But compared to the killing move that he had planned for a long time, Dong Yi's hasty outbreak this time was not strong enough to make Lu Cheng feel dizzy. He also knew this, so he didn't want to hurt his enemy. He dodged to the side and opened up the distance with thunder-shocking steps. Lu Cheng took a deep breath, straightened his waist and back, and strode forward, chasing after him. Mixed with the momentum of defeating Wei Xingtian and the crazy attack just now, he showed the power of chasing after a desperate enemy bravely. Dong Yi's speed was faster than Lu Cheng, but he didn't have the ability of mercurial balance, so he wasn't as flexible as his opponent. And the arena was limited, so he couldn't just run in a straight line. He had to watch every time he changed his direction and position. The distance between him and Lu Cheng would be shortened, making them closer and closer. Even I, a newcomer in the arena, began to feel tired, but he didn't show any sign of weakening after 2 fierce fights. Dong Yi's heart skipped a beat, knowing that he couldn't get rid of Lu Cheng. Seeing Lu Cheng was so powerful, like an overbearing and horrible statue, his spirit was immediately taken away and his courage was shaken. Lu Cheng caught up with Dong Yi in large strides, raised his left hand, and smashed his fist down toward Dong Yi's neck. Seeing this scene, the entire audience seemed to have vaguely sensed something and fell silent again. Seeing Lu Cheng's punch, Dong Yi's eyes suddenly shrank. He didn't block it with his palm, but straightened his waist and straightened his spine, forcibly moving an inch to his left. At the same time, his left hand was as fast as thunder, poking at Lu Cheng's right chest. This change happened in a flash. Lu Cheng didn't expect that Dong Yi would completely give up defense, so he didn't have time to break the inertia to avoid the blow. He could only lean to the left, letting Dong Yi's palm graze his chest, and poke the inside of his right arm. Yin Zhika jumped up. In the heart-wrenching pain, Lu Cheng's left fist also hit Dong Yi's right shoulder. Crack! Dong Yi's shoulder collapsed, and his bones were broken. Enduring the pain, Lu Cheng resolutely attacked. His left arm bounced back, shook violently, and hit Dong Yi's temple. It was time to see who was more ruthless and faster. Bam! A palm blocked his left fist. The referee looked at Dong Yi, who had given up resistance, and raised his other hand, saying loudly, "Lu Cheng wins." Until now, Lu Cheng finally had time to reflect on the change just now. He covered the wound on his right arm with his hand and asked puzzledly, "Why bother? It's just a preliminaries, not a critical moment for qualifying. Why bother to exchange a broken shoulder for a minor injury? Why bother?" Dong Yi smiled bitterly and seemed to sigh. "I can only play this role." The spectators in the stands finally understood and suddenly shouted in unison, "That's right. Dong Yi, Dong Yi, Dong Yi." Their voices were a little sad, but also deeply moved. Dong Yi was creating a chance for the last player to win. Dong Yi, Dong Yi, Dong Yi. Hearing the cheers in the stadium, Lu Cheng didn't make any hand gestures this time. He was moved by the tragic atmosphere, but he also enjoyed the tragedy of his enemy. He was quite satisfied to be able to beat the arrogant Yimo audience into a tragic state. He didn't tell Dong Yi out of kindness that he had exhausted a lot of his mental strength and was about to reach his limit. If he persevered for one more round, his chance would come. In the Fearless Squad seating area, Tan Ming stood up instinctively and walked towards the arena blankly. At this moment, Chiu Yang behind him shouted, "Go to the competition supervisor and report your injury. Ask for a substitute player." Tan Ming turned around and whispered in astonishment, I'm not injured." Chiu Yang had already walked in front of him. He supported him with his left hand and leaned to one side to block the camera. His right hand secretly punched out and hit his abdomen. Tan Ming bent down and heard Chiu Yang say in a low voice, "You're injured now." The pain finally woke Tan Ming up. He remembered that the big boy in front of him had a very popular nickname in Yimo, Mad Dog Chiu Yang. Chapter 136. Dong Yi, Dong Yi, Dong Yi. The cheers echoed in the arena, full of a sense of tragedy. Dong Yi's eyes were slightly wet. He endured the pain, waved his uninjured left hand, turned around, and walked out of the arena lonely. Such cheers, such attention, and such attention were what he had been longing for a long time. But the sad thing was that it was a failure, not a victory. Fortunately, Lu Cheng's right arm was injured, so he would be crippled for the rest of the match. It opened the door for him to win the final round. He didn't let down the heavy burden on his shoulders. As he waved his hand and left the arena, the cheers of Dong Yi became louder and louder. Lu Cheng listened quietly and watched his opponent leave. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Although he couldn't understand his thoughts or his choice, he respected the decisiveness, firmness, and courage he had just displayed. Not every martial artist would dare to do so. Lu Cheng moved his right arm a little and checked his injury. He didn't find any symptoms of bone fracture, but the place where he was poked was swollen. His muscles and fascia were damaged to a certain extent, which seriously affected his strength. In other words, it was an injury that could be healed in a short time. But the problem was that a short time was at least a few days. In the upcoming match, his arm would be crippled. "Forget it, I'll do my best. Even if I lose an arm, I'm still not an amateur first pin fighter. No matter what, I can exhaust him and create an opportunity for Sun Jian to win the match." In the amateur level, the gap between first pin fighters was actually not that big. At this time, he was puzzled to find that the third fighter of Fearless Squad didn't rush to the arena. Instead, he stayed where he was and discussed something with Chiu Yang. Did he give up? Did he think that my stamina was limitless, so he didn't care about giving me more time to recover? Lu Cheng didn't waste this opportunity. He closed his eyes, concealed his spirit in qi, and quickly entered a state of meditation. He put himself in a state close to sleep. Recovering a little bit of spirit was good. The Jindan was like a nebula, constantly expanding and shrinking, rotating slowly. Lu Cheng felt like he was looking inside his own home. Thoughts settled one after another, floating like floating clouds. His heart was empty and quiet. Seeing that Lu Cheng could still move his right arm, Yin Zhika heaved a sigh of relief and sat back down. She pouted and complained to Dong Yi. How can this be? This wasn't an important match, so it wouldn't affect their chances of advancing to the next round. Why was his opponent acting like a madman and paying the price of a serious fracture just to hurt Cheng? Cheng's injury looked like he would recover in at most 10 days, but it was not the case for his opponent. As the saying goes, it takes 100 days to recover from a serious injury. Even if a martial artist's physique was outstanding and his recovery ability was extremely strong, he would not be able to fight again for at least 50 to 60 days before reaching the inhuman level. By then, the group matches would have ended long ago. Wouldn't it be stupid to miss the next 5 matches just for this one match? How much hatred and resentment! While Yin Zhika felt distressed, confused and indignant, Geysersha replied with a sigh. There are too many bigoted people in this world. And there are also too many bystanders who can't understand what they value. With Fearless Squad's strength and martial artist style, without today's incident, when Xiao Yang returns and Wei Xingtian is alive and kicking again, how would Dong Yi have the chance to be remembered? Maybe he won't even be able to go on stage. The 2 people in front will take care of everything. After being ignored for so long, I have a desire to prove myself. Maybe this is a kind of martial artist spirit. Wei Xingtian majored in bright stone skill. Lu Cheng had restrained his strength at the end and used a delicate force. So although he was hit hard just now, in fact, he was not seriously injured. For him, what was more uncomfortable was that his internal organs were shaken. After a few days of rest, he would be able to recover to his peak state. Yin Zhika was born in a martial arts family, so she could understand. She nodded silently to show that she understood. But even so, she still disliked Dong Yi and still felt distress for Lu Cheng. In the live broadcast room, the host of Yimo local TV station was shocked by the resolute and tragic scene. After a long time he murmured, "It's not necessary. Xiaowei, what do you think?" Xiaowei smacked his lips and said, "This match is a bit tragic. If not for the background, I would have thought it was the key battle for the qualification of Songqing Division. Dong Yi's courage is admirable, but I can't understand his choice. With Fearless Squad's strength, losing this match won't be so bad that they can't qualify. They have already defeated another popular team, Azure Dragon Squad, in the last match. The following matches are all opponents who are obviously weaker than them. Losing a match would at most be a loss of face. But now, I'm afraid Dong Yi will miss all the following group matches. Whether he can participate in the knockout match in May depends on his recovery. The loss outweighs the gain. Of course, with only the recovered Xiao Yang and Wei Xingtian, Fearless Squad will be able to defeat the weak in the following group matches. It's not a big problem even without Dong Yi. When they challenged Azure Dragon Squad in an away match, didn't Xiao Yang win 2 matches in a row? Wei Xingtian won the last match, and Dong Yi disguised as a coach to watch and cheer. Fearless Squad was led by Wei Xingtian without a coach. As for Lu Cheng's group, the favorites to qualify were Yimo's Fearless Squad, with 1 dance stage and 2 professional 9th pin fighters, and Songqing's Azure Dragon Squad, with 4 professional 9th pin fighters. If their strength was compared horizontally, in Xiaoshan's division, they could directly enter the second stage of the preliminaries. In many divisions, even if there was only 1 professional 9th pin fighter leading the team, there was still hope for the team to qualify and participate in the knockout round. In the middle of Lu Cheng's group, there were 2 professional 9th pin fighters in Hongluo Squad and Songqing University Martial Arts Club members. The other 4 teams were relatively weak. 2 teams only had 1 professional 9th pin fighter, and the other 2 teams were purely amateur teams who came to see and experience because there were no restrictions in the preliminaries. In other words, even if Fearless Squad were to lose the match with Lu Cheng's team, the only opponent with any weight behind them would be Hongluo Squad. Moreover, it would be in the last round. Although Xiaowei was exaggerating a little by saying that the rest of the competition would be Hongluo Squad, he wasn't wrong. The TV host listened and agreed. He couldn't understand Dong Yi's choice, so he could only smooth things over. No matter what, Dong Yi showed us the courage and spirit of a fighter. Xiaowei, What do you think of the next match? Yi Xiaowei laughed and said, although Lu Cheng's hand is temporarily disabled, he has mercurial balance and abnormal physical strength. Why would he be afraid of an amateur first-pin fighter? He will exhaust his opponent to death. Even if Lu Cheng reaches his limit halfway, Songqing University Martial Arts Club has other fighters. I think Fearless Squad will lose 99% of the time. As soon as he finished, the TV host heard the director's prompt, and his expression suddenly became strange. Xiaowei, Fearless Squad's third fighter, Tan Ming, suddenly fell ill and can't fight. He will be replaced by a substitute. Yi Xiaowei couldn't help but chuckle. Are you scared? Are you scared? The TV host quickly added, the substitute is Qiu Yang. Yi Xiaowei was stunned and said, it's a bit interesting. The gamblers watching the live broadcast cheered, and almost ran to tell others. Good news, good news! That toxic healer commentator supported Songqing University Martial Arts Club. And as soon as he supported, he immediately turned the situation around. In Lu Cheng's private forum, which was originally full of content such as pity, is the opponent stupid? Beat another professional ninth pin fighter. And so on suddenly exploded. All the good names are taken by dogs was the first to post. Damn, where's your shame? This is completely shameless. So angry, but I still have to keep a smile. Lu Cheng has won 2 rounds in a row, and he has earned enough. Eternal Nightfall. Yin Xiaoling followed. Unparalleled Dragon King said weakly. According to the rules, it's normal for a substitute to fight. Otherwise, why would there be a substitute? But the sudden illness is too fake. There were regulations on the conditions under which a substitute could fight. It was not something that could be changed by the coach on a whim. In that case, the list and order of the 3 main fighters would not be necessary. It was completely possible to decide who would fight first, and put the original main fighters on the substitute. Depending on the situation, the order of replacement could be arranged flexibly. Therefore, the competition supervisor had to confirm that the main fighters were injured, sick, or mentally broken before they could be replaced. Generally speaking, it was a last resort. Nie Chi said bitterly. Even if they shamelessly win this time, with the speed of Lu Cheng and Lin Kei's growth, they can win the knockout round after the group competition. At that time, we can block them at the entrance of the qualification. That's the best way to vent our anger. I still want to say, beat that mad dog. Brahman shouted. Humph, kids don't need to think about reality anyway. Damn, I'm still waiting for Cheng to fight 1 against 3. In Songqing University's dormitory, Kai Zoming blurted out. His roommates cursed for a while before calming down. Zhao Cheng pushed his black-rimmed glasses and said, it's worth it to lose since they can force Fearless Squad to this point. It doesn't matter anymore. Classmate Little Ming looked at him sadly. But I placed a bet. Although it was not much, it was still 200. In Songqing University Martial Arts Club's seating area, Yin Zhika wasn't angry. Instead, she solved the lingering doubts in her heart. She turned to look at Coach Sher and said, they are really shameless. She wasn't angry or surprised, but she was very disappointed and distressed. She felt that Lu Cheng's all-out battle was wasted, and that Cheng's injury and pain just now were not worth it. Geezer sure snorted. To put it in a better way, Fearless Squad is full of abnormal desire for victory. Beside and behind him, Li Mao and the others loosened their clenched fists and sighed. Lin Kei closed his eyes and seemed to exhale softly. Qiu Yang, Qiu Yang, Qiu Yang. Seeing Qiu Yang walking into the ring, the desperate and tragic audience suddenly burst into thunderous cheers, making this name reverberate in every corner of the martial arts arena. Lu Cheng, who was sleeping in the middle of the ring, felt that everything around him was being pulled away and separated from him. Although he vaguely felt that the sound around him suddenly became louder, he couldn't hear clearly what the audience was shouting. After a while, he felt something in his heart, and suddenly opened his eyes. He saw a big boy walking up the stone steps. Qiu Yang? Lu Cheng blurted out in surprise. Qiu Yang was also puzzled. He frowned slightly and said, you just found out? You should have known from the moment the match supervisor checked Tan Ming's physical condition, right? I fell asleep just now. Lu Cheng answered silently. Of course, he didn't say it out loud. He felt that his answer would make him look wrong. Yes. He maintained an unfathomable smile and didn't explain anything. At the same time, he took a light breath and felt that his head was much clearer. Chapter 137. Lu Cheng seized the time to recover a little, so that his thinking and reaction would not slow down immediately. But he also paid a price. He had just learned that his opponent had been replaced by Qiu Yang, so he had no time to carefully recall Qiu Yang's match images and relevant information. Fortunately, Qiu Yang's fighting style was distinctive, and his personal characteristics were very strong, which left a deep impression on him. Now, after a little thinking, many key points naturally emerged, so he was not at a loss. Qiu Yang, nicknamed Mad Dog, was the type who fought desperately and crazily. He was the type who was not afraid of death, and seldom defended, or simply dodged. He liked to attack with attack, take risks and seize opportunities. He liked to sacrifice himself to win. This fighting style seemed to be quite simple, as long as one was fierce and courageous enough. But after careful analysis, one could taste the martial arts level involved in it. In a fight between masters, it was not always possible to sacrifice oneself to win. There would not be a situation where one would fearlessly attack the enemy's vital points when he was about to be hit, and rely on the referee to stop the fight to win, because there was no such opportunity. In such a situation, the underdog would have no time to attack the enemy's vital points. If he forced himself to attack, he would be heavily injured in advance, making the counterattack weak, and even abruptly stopped. Just like in the battle between Lu Cheng and Dong Yi, when faced with the Dark Thunder Palm, Lu Cheng did use a side kick to force his opponent to give up the killing move. However, the key point was not the side kick. Because of his preemptive reaction, Dong Yi would have cursed him for being an idiot, and then calmly stabbed him in the waist. It would have been so painful that Lu Cheng couldn't use his strength and kick out his leg. If this was not enough, Dong Yi's hand was already on Lu Cheng's waist and pressed down and blocked. Who could complete the side kick? Therefore, using the method of attacking the enemy's vital points to win the enemy's compromise not only relied on courage, guts and ruthlessness, but also on vision, insight, judgment, and the martial arts level to seize the opportunity. Without the latter, only the former would be underage gangsters. If they competed with courage and ruthlessness, they were definitely strong enough. But could they win against a professional master? They would probably be beaten so badly that even their mothers would not recognize them after one round. With an accurate judgment, a perfect grasp of timing, and a martial prowess that was sufficient to support the completion of one's thoughts, in addition to one's courage and determination, one would be able to exchange injuries for death by attacking one's vital points, forcing the other party to have no choice but to first protect themselves. Even if the opponent was a lunatic and did not change, the referee would still intervene and easily determine the final victor. That was because in a situation where there was no referee, it was clear who was injured and who was killed. The one who survived would definitely be considered the winner. Dong Yi's last poke at Lu Cheng was a perfect combination of vision, judgment, timing, and courage. Of course, it was also because Lu Cheng didn't expect Dong Yi to have such a crazy idea. Once he was mentally prepared and knew Dong Yi's style, with his mercurial balance, there was a good chance that he could hurt Dong Yi and dodge the attack at the same time. If there was a desperate fight where both sides were injured, the referee would usually not intervene if it did not result in death or disability. However, if the opportunity was equal and both sides were likely to die together or be disabled, the referee would decide to call it a draw after stopping the fight. This was not unprecedented. Of course, there was bound to be some wrangling. For example, if someone said, "I've just mastered the iron crotch technique, so I'm not afraid of being kicked in the groin," or, "I've just reached the invincible Vajra realm, so it doesn't matter if my vital points are attacked," then the referee would ask for a demonstration and change the decision according to the facts. In this, the referee was very important, but they were not omnipotent. There would be times when they could not stop it, and death and injury were inevitable. There were similar cases every year, but the relative probability was not high. even lower than car accidents. Even so, the official competition would also buy corresponding personal insurance for all the participants. Every life and every disability would be investigated by the police department to confirm that there was no collusion or intentional negligence. If there was, it would be considered murder. As for the competition between the physical and vulnerability experts, the referee could not intervene. If the strength was not enough, he would not even dare to stay in the arena. Anyway, it was easy to injure experts of this level, but difficult to kill or cripple them, so there was no need to worry too much about them. All in all, Qiu had not only relied on his viciousness and courage to survive until now, but also his martial arts level and judgment. He was the best of the best. Whoever looked down on him, because of his nickname and fighting style, would definitely end up in a miserable state. Moreover, Lu Qing noticed something. According to the data, Qiu had several experiences of forfeiting. When facing an enemy 1 or 2 levels higher than him, he would always forfeit without exception. In other words, he was very clear-headed and knew that if he encountered a strong enemy with the Mad Dog style, it was very likely that he would be seriously injured, and nothing could be exchanged for it. He was a very rational Mad Dog. While Lu Qing was thinking, Qiu had already stood in position and set up his stance. The referee raised his right hand and announced the start of the match. As if he had received the order to start running, Qiu sprang up and rushed to Lu Qing like an arrow. His eyes were crazy and his momentum was overwhelming, as if he wanted to raise everything in front of him to the ground and tear it into pieces. Lu Qing had come up with a strategy for this battle, which was to rely on his mercurial balance to fight for a long time. This was because similar crazy fighting style without any regard for one's own safety was a little bit like Cheng Yaojin's 3 axes. Once they were dragged for a long time, their spirit would be dulled, and their madness would be reduced. They would be on the verge of failure. Qiu previous battle videos could fully prove this point. However, facing the enemy's advance, Lu Qing did not immediately use the mercurial balance to dodge. He felt that under such momentum, once he flinched and dodged, it was very likely that he would subconsciously become timid, which would gradually reduce his morale. Then he would be chased by Qiu like a defeated army. Therefore, even if he wanted to fight with the Mad Dog, he had to fight with the enemy for a while to reduce his momentum. Lu Qing's eyes reflected Qiu figure. When Qiu was about to approach him, he suddenly twisted his waist, tightened his thighs, and kicked his knee. This was a well-behaved move, which was also a good choice in the situation, where it was difficult to use the right hand. But Qiu, as his nickname, did not use his leg to block the kick, nor did he hastily change his direction. Instead, he jumped up in a way that violated the taboo of fighting at this level. Like a ferocious eagle, he leaped over the kick and extended his right hand, preparing to hit Lu Qing's temple from the side. At the same time, he bent his body and positioned his legs, waiting for a series of stomps on Lu Qing's chest. Attacking from the top and the bottom, it was hard to defend. Ruthless and crazy, if Lu Qing could use his right hand, he would have a lot of choices at this time, such as using his arm to block the kick, or using his elbow to protect his face. Then he would learn from Lin Kei's continuous attacks and shake Qiu away, and seize the opportunity to attack. But now, he could only use one hand, and his right leg had not been withdrawn in time. He could only protect his head, but not his chest. At the critical moment, Lu Qing suddenly leaned back, rolled to the left, and kicked out his right leg again, making it like a tight whip, fiercely lashing at Qiu, who could not change his direction in midair. Iron Bridge Dragon turning over. After this fall and kick, Lu Qing not only avoided the attack on his temple and chest, but also completed the counterattack. With his left hand on the ground, his whip leg exploded the air fiercely and terrifyingly. Qiu had to squirm his spine and kick out his legs to avoid this dangerous attack. Bang! Lu Qing took advantage of the momentum and stood up again, while Qiu fell a few steps away. As soon as he touched the ground, he straightened his knees and threw himself at Lu Qing again without any hesitation. His momentum was extremely crazy. Facing this, Lu Qing saw that the position was suitable, So he shook his left arm and shot out like a big gun to Qiu Yang's face. Qiu Yang's spine squirmed like a dragon trying to break free from its shackles. He slid to the right and came behind Lu Cheng. Then he clenched his right hand into a fist and hit the spine, fast and hard. During this process, he stood in a very clever place, closer to Lu Cheng's right side, taking advantage of the fact that Lu Cheng's right hand was injured and could not fight back. At this moment, Lu Cheng swung his center of gravity and bounced to the left, which made him move quickly and avoid Qiu Yang's dragon-catching punch. After the Iron Plank Bridge Dragon Ascension, he adjusted his body muscles, so that he was in the state of mercurial balance. He was not careless about Qiu Yang's punch. He did not try to twist his waist and pull his leg because he was afraid that Qiu Yang would lower himself and roll under him. Then he would perform the shoulder kick, or monkey steals the peach. It was risky for an attacker, but Qiu Yang would do it according to his style. Seeing that Lu Cheng moved away, Qiu Yang stepped on the ground and made an explosion in the depth of the arena. Then he continued to attack crazily. As if there was a ball in his body, Lu Cheng turned again, but he did not escape. Instead, he swung his left arm for a short fight with abrupt force. As soon as Qiu Yang approached, he visualized the mouth of a poisonous snake in his mind. He clenched his right hand and fought back without dodging. Poisonous punch, biting force. Bang! With a strong and crisp sound, Lu Cheng's fist spewed out flames and collided with Qiu Yang's right hand. Hiss! Both of them took a light breath and withdrew their hands at the same time. One of them felt like he was bitten by a sharp tooth. The other felt like he was burned by a flame. Both of them were mentally prepared and finished their follow-up actions calmly, leaving no chance for the opponent to take advantage of. Seeing this, Geezer Shi and Yinjuka were puzzled. They did not understand why Lu Cheng used the power of blaze, which could not affect the opponent temporarily. Could it be that he wants to take this opportunity to temper and improve his supernatural ability? Geezer Shi pondered. Lu Cheng's idea was similar to his guess. Although his spirit had recovered a little, the mercurial balance required extreme concentration and could not be maintained for long. Therefore, he had to plan early. He planned to use the power of blaze frequently to gradually squeeze the Jindan and try the second awakening. He wanted to try actively. After refining his bone marrow and 5 viscera bit by bit with Thunder Roar Zen, his physical quality improved rapidly. The cultivation during the winter vacation was not in vain. He thought that he could barely bear the initial backfire. He planned to try the Thunder Roar Zen in 2 or 3 weeks, when he reached the entry level. Now that he was a little ahead of schedule, it should not be a big problem. However, ideals were just ideals most of the time. After a while of guerrilla fighting with mercurial balance, he tragically found that he had no chance to use abrupt force or release flames, because the opponent would not cooperate with him. If he tried it rashly, he would be defeated before he could squeeze the Jindan. The bitterness in his heart couldn't be felt by outsiders. But both Qiu Yang and the audience in the stands were getting more and more desperate. They couldn't see any sign of weakness from Lu Cheng, and they couldn't see any possibility of his physical strength declining. It seemed that he could continue to rely on his mercurial balance and wouldn't give up until Qiu Yang was exhausted to death. Qiu Yang narrowed his eyes and seized the opportunity when they were close to each other. In his mind, he visualized a poisonous snake that shot lightning and bit people. His body trembled, and his spine bent into a bow shape. Then he suddenly bounced up and pushed himself to the front of Lu Cheng at a speed beyond the body refining state. He clenched his right fist and threw out the poisonous bite. Lu Cheng had a deep impression of this killer move when he watched the video. He did not dodge blindly, because the subsequent chain of kicks would be more terrible. He shook his left shoulder and bounced up his arm to block the punch. At the same time, he steadied his center of gravity and was ready to twist his waist and swing his leg to block the next killer move. Bang! Lu Cheng suddenly realized that they were too close to each other. Qiu Yang's left hand was injured, so he couldn't punch out, leaving a huge opening for Lu Cheng to attack. His right arm was seriously affected by the injury, but it did not mean that he could not use it at all. Enduring the pain and the consequences of aggravating the injury, he could still throw a punch or two. Lu Qing did not hesitate to tighten his right arm and endure the pain. Then he threw a seabed forward punch at Qiu Yang's lower abdomen. At the same time, Qiu Yang's crazy eyes locked on Lu Qing's lower abdomen. I have not used my left hand, because I was waiting for this opportunity. It can't use its full strength, but it can still help me win at the critical moment. My previous patients should have completely paralyzed you. Bang! He threw a crushing punch at Lu Qing's lower abdomen. They threw out their punches quickly. Because of the difference in height and body shape, even though they were on the same side, they did not directly hit each other. Instead, they ran to the target by brushing against each other's fists. Bang! Bang! The referee reached out to block their fists. He gasped and said, "Draw, draw?" Qiu Yang felt that this was the most inexplicable match he had ever fought. How could the well-prepared trap end in a draw? Lu Qing was as confused as Qiu Yang. He vaguely felt that he and Qiu Yang had made the same choice at that moment. Fortunately, I still have the desire to win, and I was brave and determined enough to not hesitate at that time. This is also good. A draw means that both of us left the stage. I still have someone behind me, but Fearless Squad has no one. In other words, we won. We won. Chapter 138. The referee took 2 deep breaths, withdrew his hand and asked, "Do you have any questions?" Qiu Yang had recovered from his confusion. Looking at his and Lu Qing's still clenched fists and stiff postures, he had a rough idea of what had happened just now. When he jumped out of the trap, his opponent seized the opportunity. He was very sullen, very depressed, and very much wanted to vent, very much wanted to roar. But the main source of the matter was still his own mistake. He was complacent in the well-designed trap, but neglected that the other side could also be paralyzed by his right hand, just like him. He couldn't find anyone to blame, and there was no reason to quibble. He wanted to beat the referee, but he knew the gap between them was too big. He couldn't beat the referee, so he could only hold back his anger and said, "I have no problem." Lu Qing also figured out what was going on. He sighed inwardly that his thinking was really starting to become sluggish, and he didn't react in time. He held back his laughter and said, "I also have no problem." Of course he had no problem. If he continued to fight, his brain would become numb, and his reaction would be slow. It was perfect to fight to a draw and win the final victory. One must know one's limits. While speaking, he secretly imagined that he had won because he had the jindan hidden in his lower abdomen. If he was hit by the crushing punch, it might react and save him from injury. However, this was just a fantasy. Who knew if the reaction of the jindan would directly burn and freeze him, just like the dead black carp? Compared to the emotional outburst and ecstasy when he defeated Wei Xingtian, Lu Qing's joy was very mild, because he couldn't be excited even if he wanted to. His body hadn't reached its limit, but his spirit was exhausted. Like a martial artist who had gone through a marathon hard battle, how could he have the strength and passion to crazily celebrate the victory? He just needed to quietly enjoy it. This was truly a long, arduous, and tragic match. The audience in the stands also did not immediately react to what had happened. They did not understand why it was a tie all of a sudden. Some of them were blocked by the referee, who was very close to the scene of the incident. Some of them did not see clearly because the two sides were too close, and the punch was too fast. When the big screens hanging in different parts of the martial arts arena began to replay the scene in slow motion again and again from various angles, they realized that both sides had chosen to activate their injured arms at the same time to seize the opponent's flaw and create a situation where both sides were injured. A punch to the lower abdomen did not necessarily result in death, nor did it necessarily result in disability. In fact, martial artists could shrink their abdomen in time to avoid the most severe injuries, but after being hit, they would collapse on the spot and curl up on the ground. There was no problem with the referee stopping the fight in time. However, a draw would mean that their own team had lost the match. They had lost a match that they had originally thought to be in the bag. The audience fell into silence once again. It was an extremely oppressive silence. They felt that all their enthusiasm and expectations had gone down the drain. All their longing for release and ecstasy had been eaten by dogs. Disappointment, anger, and unwillingness quickly brewed in his heart. Lu Cheng enjoyed the silence and felt that it was no less than the cheers of the home audience. Then he heard the referee announce loudly, "A tie. Fighters from both sides leave the arena." He exhaled and glanced at Qiu Yang, who had restrained his madness and unwillingness. He saluted with his hands folded, turned around easily, and walked out of the arena. This guy was too smart for his own good. He would probably regret it for a long time. Just thinking of this made him feel King good. You guys are so shameless to be the substitutes. Alas, after all, I am not a saint. I will be angry at the enemy's provocation. I will bear a grudge against the abuse that insults my family and the girl I love. I can't help but fight back. I will want to vent my inner feelings. I will also gloat at the enemy's self-righteousness. I am such a person with many shortcomings. I am not tolerant enough and broad-minded enough. Well, after reviewing, I will continue to feel good secretly. Haha, this is really good. Qiu Yang's left arm hung down, and his right fist clenched tightly. He took 2 deep breaths to prevent himself from going crazy on the spot. He gritted his teeth and walked down the stairs. He felt ashamed to face his parents and couldn't lift his head for a moment. The referee warmed up his old arms and legs and waved to the Songqing University Martial Arts Club. He said loudly, "The third fighter." Sun Jian was still immersed in the surprise of a tie and the joy of winning the match. At this moment he was a little confused. After a few seconds, he suddenly came to himself and pointed to himself, saying loudly, "Do I still need to fight?" "Well, the rules are set," the referee replied. "Well." Sun Jian stood up from his seat and walked down the stairs to meet Lu Cheng, who was coming back. Seeing that they were about to meet, he raised his right hand and tried to high-five Lu Cheng to celebrate. Lu Cheng wanted to respond, but when he moved his right arm, he felt a sharp pain and had to give up. His left hand was not in the right position, so it was very awkward to high-five. So he could only look at Sun Jian with a bitter smile. Sun Jian suddenly realized. He quickly clenched his right hand into a fist and gave a thumbs up. "Awesome. I'm sincerely convinced by you." "You sound like you were not convinced before," Lu Cheng criticized in his heart. He nodded with a smile and joked, "So this counts as fighting, right?" Sun Jian suddenly fell into deep confusion. Does this count as fighting or not? When Lu Cheng returned to the seats of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Yan Jika had already stood up and greeted him. She asked happily and worriedly, "Are you okay? How's your injury?" "It was okay at the beginning, but now it seems to be a little worse," Lu Cheng answered honestly. At the same time, he saw Li Mao, Guo Qing, and Li Xiaowen applauding and giving him thumbs up. Even Lin Ke nodded his head slightly. Yan Jika glanced at him. Her eyes were bright and full of emotions. "Who asked you to be brave?" She stretched out her hands and checked Lu Cheng's injury through his clothes. Lu Cheng grimaced in pain and said in a low voice, "If I don't act brave, I'll lose. I'm almost exhausted. If Qiu Yang makes a killing move again, I won't be able to block it." Yenjika opened her clear eyes and asked curiously, "Is this the limit of your physical strength?" "The limit of my energy. I can still fight with my physical strength." Lu Cheng smiled and said, "Actually, Dong Yi and Qiu Yang both lost because they didn't know me well. If Dong Yi could hold on for one more round, I wouldn't be able to suppress him. He didn't need to exchange a big injury for a small one. As for Qiu Yang, he was too impatient. If he fought with me for one more minute, I wouldn't be able to hold on. Unfortunately, both of them realized that they couldn't wait for my limit, so they took a more radical approach. There was a certain difference between the two fights. Dong Yi might not be able to hold on for one round of brutal blizzard. The winner was still unknown. Qiu Yang, on the other hand, would definitely lose as long as he was patient and didn't rush to attack. Yenjika smiled and said, "The advantage of asymmetrical information is also an advantage. Anyway, you haven't shown your limit yet. You can use this to influence your opponent in the future." Then she breathed a sigh of relief and said, "You don't have a big injury on your bones. I'll have to ask Coach Sure about it." Geezer smiled and said, "Are you done whispering sweet nothings to each other? You finally remember this old man? Yenjika suddenly blushed and turned her head to the side. She bit her lower lip with her white and neat teeth. Lu Qing could only laugh awkwardly and didn't know what to say. Geezer sure was satisfied with his own humor. He looked at Lu Qing and said, "Your fascia and muscles are injured. I guess you need to rest for a while. Let's go back to the locker room and do a detailed examination." Coach, you can see that?" Lu Qing was shocked. "Is this X-ray vision?" Geezer sure said unhappily. "Haven't you heard of the enemy freezing heart move? You moved your right arm within 5 meters of me and affected the muscles and fascia there. If I didn't feel it, I would have wasted my years of martial arts training." "Oh, so it's the upgraded application of the ice mirror." Lu Qing suddenly realized. He was more and more afraid of the ability of a high-ranked fighter. At this time, Geezer sure reached out and quickly patted Lu Qing's wound. Yenjika and Lu Qing were scared, but they didn't have time to stop him. With a cold feeling, Lu Qing felt the pain in his wound was relieved a lot. Although it was still difficult for him to use force, at least he felt more normal. "Thank you, coach." Lu Qing resisted the urge to call him teacher. Yenjika woke up and said angrily, "Coach, sure. Why didn't you say hello first?" "Scared to death." At this time, Sun Jian stood beside the referee and looked at him. He raised his right hand and said, "The final round, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins." Sun Jian was confused and sluggish. He couldn't help but think, "I'm just going on stage to put on a show." The announcement of the result of the match suddenly woke up all the spectators from their silence. Some were cheering loudly for their own team members. Some were screaming because of extreme disappointment, and some were angry and kept cursing their own team members and the Songqing University Martial Arts Club members. The scene became chaotic and a little hysterical. Not everyone could accept failure so generously. Seeing this, the staff immediately rushed to the seats of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club and said anxiously, "Hurry up and go back to the locker room. 5 minutes, only 5 minutes. Get changed and leave immediately before they leave the stadium." Lu Qing and the others were planning to celebrate this hard-won victory in the locker room. Hearing this, they were all shocked and didn't say anything. After Sun Jian left, they immediately returned to the locker room, took a shower, changed into their normal clothes, and left through the side door with the staff. They boarded the bus that had been waiting for them. They didn't breathe a sigh of relief until the bus was far away from the stadium. Such an away game was horrible. Even in such a terrifying away game, the entire stadium was silenced by their own team. While feeling happy, Sun Jian smiled bitterly and said, "It's a pity that I didn't have a real fight." Geezer sure had just finished checking Lu Qing's wound. He laughed and said, "There will be plenty of chances later. These two rascals won't recover in a short time." Lin Ke forced himself to use the yin-yang twist, so his joints are injured and his body is shaken. Not to mention the competition, he can't even practice in the next week. It will take at least 3 weeks for him to fully recover. As for Lu Qing, well, he could have recovered in a few days, but he forced himself to punch and aggravated his injury. It will take about 2 weeks for him to return to normal. The next match is our home ground. Our opponent is not strong. Sun Jian, Li Mao, and Lin Hua are the main force. Yenjika and Guoqing are the substitutes. P.S. I have something to do in the afternoon. The match in the evening is at 11 p.m. Chapter 139. As soon as Geezer sure made the announcement, Lu Qing felt Yenjika sitting up straight beside him. Her eyes were shining. She seemed a little excited and a little nervous. In case anyone felt unwell, she would be able to enter the arena. Seeing this, Lu Qing said half jokingly and half confusedly, Coach, sure. I'm only injured in my right arm. I can still fight. It's not a problem for me to bully amateur fighters. If I meet a professional 9th pin fighter, I can also hold my own." He had focused all his attention on Fearless Squad and didn't pay attention to the opponents in the next 2 rounds. He thought that no matter how weak they were, they couldn't be that weak. They should at least be a team of amateur first pin. Otherwise, wouldn't they be asking for humiliation in the preliminaries? Geezer sure chuckled and said, "The opponents in the last 2 rounds are relatively weak, which is perfect for Sun Jian and Li Mao to practice. Even if they lose, it doesn't matter. We are here to increase our actual combat experience, not to advance. You have to give others a chance to grow, right? Besides, with your character and thirst for victory, when you really enter the arena, will you be able to resist not using your right hand at the crucial moment? Lu Qing felt a little guilty and could only laugh dryly. Geezer continued, saying earnestly, and after 2 weeks of 5 high-level actual combat, you also need some time to digest and avoid becoming impetuous. Another very important reason is that your martial arts style has not yet been finalized. Every intense battle will have a great impact on you, causing you to develop certain fighting habits. For a martial artist, not having a habit is the best habit. This requires you to accumulate a lot of experience in a short period of time before calming down and leaving the battle for a period of time. Then, you will examine yourself from a different perspective, analyze your problems, and overcome your habits. He used the word calm twice. Lu Qing felt that it was reasonable. He felt that a fighter with a good teacher would take less detours in the process of growth. These words made Yin Zhuge and the others ponder. They connected with themselves and understood. It was not good to leave in a hurry. Seeing that everyone was thinking about his teachings, Geezer smiled proudly. Brat, today I will let you know what it means to be old and experienced. If I let you enter the arena, it is not impossible to advance in the group. When the time comes and you really fight for a place in the division and enter the second stage of the preliminaries in the second half of the year, what will you do? Aren't you slapping this old man's face? The carriage was quiet for a while. Seeing that they were getting closer and closer to Yimo Transit Station, everyone began to reminisce about the competition just now, as well as the hard-won harvest. We had to sacrifice 2 of our main forces in order to barely snatch victory from Yimo. It was truly bitter and difficult. Li Mao could not help but sigh. Guoqing nodded in agreement. Isn't that so? Lin Ke and Cheng were both very capable. They had managed to do the impossible. It's just that in the end, it felt like we were running away. You can't say that. Sun Jian immediately retorted and posed as if he was singing an opera. This is called playing the hero in Changban Slope, going in and out of 1,000,000 soldiers 7 times, and then retreating calmly after killing them all. His words immediately caused the crowd to burst into laughter. The atmosphere was joyous, filled with the joy of victory. In the live broadcast room of the TV station, the local host's face was ashen. He could not hide his depression and disappointment. He could only smile stiffly and say, "Xiaowei, can you give us an analysis of the final tie?" Xiaowei said excitedly, "This is my battle to establish my name. Didn't some people say that I'm a toxic healer? Look, didn't Fearless Squad also lose today? I predicted in advance that they would lose 99% of the time. That's why we shouldn't be superstitious. If you spread rumors again, be careful not to be struck by lightning." Alright, back to the topic. Let's look at the last part in slow motion. Were both sides synchronized? They both disregarded the consequences and used their injured hand, resulting in a lose-lose situation. However, I have to say that there is a difference between their seemingly identical actions. Qiu Yang actively created an opportunity to use his left hand, while Lu Qing passively reacted. In other words, Qiu Yang had carefully designed a trap with his injured arm from the beginning, waiting for Lu Qing to step into it. But because he was too confident and proud of this, he neglected the possibility of his opponent risking his life. He failed to see Mount Tai, and went for wool and came home shorn. When we were first challenged by the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, I bet that the Fearless Squad definitely looked down on them. They must have thought that since we have a professional 8th pin in the Dan stage and 2 professional 9th pin masters, why would we be afraid of a bunch of immature kids? It's not a big deal to lose to Qiu Yang. In the end, everyone saw that even with Qiu Yang, they still lost to Songqing University Martial Arts Club and lost face. Of course, this can't be entirely their fault. Who would have thought that Songqing University's Lu Cheng's stamina would be so abnormal? With him, it's equivalent to having 2, 3, 4, 5 professional 9th pin masters, or maybe even more. Anyway, I can't see where his limit is. This makes the Songqing University Martial Arts Club equivalent to a weakened version of the Azure Dragon Squad, a strong contender for the qualification to advance in this group. Defeating the Fearless Squad, who had underestimated their opponent and had engaged in a fight in advance, isn't too inconceivable. He Xiaowei was enjoying himself when he suddenly realized that the host beside him was looking at him strangely. The director, cameraman, and lighting technician in front of him were also looking at him strangely. They all looked like they wanted to slap and kick him. This is Yimo TV station's building. Almost everyone here supports Fearless Squad. The people here are tough. Even a random passerby might have an amateur level. F*CK. Even if I'm also a 13 Grand Guardian's brute training, I probably won't be able to walk out of this building if this continues. A wise man submits to circumstances. He smiled shyly and forcibly turned his inclination back. For Fearless Squad, this isn't the end of the world. It's better to suffer a setback early than later. It's better to suffer a setback in the group stage than in the knockout round. As long as they can learn their lesson and stop underestimating their opponent. With their strength and foundation, they're still a popular team to advance in this division. After saying all this in one breath, He Xiaowei saw the director and host nodding slightly and softening their gazes. He Xiaowei quietly heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, I'm quick-witted and battle-hardened. The gamblers in front of the TV were already paralyzed on the spot, muttering things like rooftop and Sha * County Hotel to themselves. In Lu Cheng's private forum, fans had already gone crazy. They excitedly started forum chatting and no longer looked for posts to reply. Ha 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 ha. I just need to maintain a smiling expression. The moderator, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Xiaoling took the lead. Niachichi followed closely behind. Listen to my barbell-like laughter, and you'll know how excited I am. Defeating the strong with the weak and creating miracles, that's how exciting it is. Brahmin was even more delighted with her words. Who asked you to be shameless? Who asked you to look down on my idol? Who asked you to call him Mad Dog? You should have called him Husky instead. I can't believe he won. It's only been a month and my idol can already defeat 3 opponents at once. In the crazy atmosphere, Unparalleled Dragon King tried to maintain his rationality and seriously analyzed. It's not that Lu Qing can defeat all the professional 9th pin fighters. Although his fighting talent is really good, he's good at judging, seizing opportunities, and is often quick-witted. But the most fundamental reason is that he's in the stage of rapid improvement. Also, he's a martial arts newcomer and hasn't been fixed in all aspects. Almost every competition has new things and new changes, which makes people unable to predict in advance through previous videos. Plus, with his extremely abnormal physical strength, he can really make those experienced masters feel overwhelmed. Because it was a forum chat, he divided such a long paragraph into several posts, so that it could be displayed in the title. We don't want to listen to the analysis today. We just want to celebrate. Drive, drive. Those who wanted to drive just now come out. Yan Xiaoling shouted. Okamoto's fan laughed. Drive right away. Underage girls stay away. You'd better continue to be soft and cute. Humph, in this online world full of old drivers, who can always be soft and cute. Now is the time to celebrate Lu Qing defeating a strong opponent. Why don't we tear off our masks and face it naked? No, face it frankly. Yan Xiaoling replied with a spirit of self-deprecating. Okay, I'll post it right away. Okamoto's fan immediately agreed. After a short while he posted a post. The old driver is driving. The beautiful young woman and her harem. Beep Sawadika. My Buddhist name is Luan Lai snatched the sofa. Hey, student card. Yan Xiaoling also appeared here. After swiping the card to reply, Unparalleled Dragon King appeared. Go to hell. It's the first episode of the Calabash Brothers. Yan Xiaoling followed up and replied, Go away. You're not a real driver. After a long time, in the aftertaste of the celebration, Brahmin found Yan Xiaoling. Little Nightfall. I think we need to be careful of some people from Yimo. They look so excited. In the past, fans of Longhu Club and Shangqing sect often bombarded each other's forums. Yan Xiaoling replied calmly, If they want to then so be it. There aren't many people in our forum anyway. It's not a big problem to be affected for a day or two. When the time comes, we can just find a software to delete them in batches. Thinking about it is one thing, but I'm still angry. When our Lu Cheng improves little by little, and has more and more fans, let's see who dares to bully our forum. Even if they want to be bombarded, they have to consider the price they have to bear. In the home team locker room of Yimo Martial Arts Stadium, the atmosphere was so oppressive that it was terrifying. No one dared to speak, for fear of provoking Mad Dog. Qiu Yang's expression was gloomy, no longer as fresh and clean as usual. His eyes were filled with dangerous irritability, as if he couldn't wait to find someone to fight to vent his anger. Wei Xingtian sat quietly on the bench, like a volcano that was about to erupt. After a few minutes, Wei Xingtian suddenly stood up and sighed. The reason for today's failure is because I underestimated the enemy. I underestimated Songqing University's Lu Cheng and Lin Quebec. It would have been better to arrange for old Dong to take the lead. Go out, appease the audience and accept the interview. If a defeat can defeat us, then what is the point of practicing martial arts and participating in the preliminaries? We should just go home and sell sweet potatoes. Old Dong is treating his injury in the emergency room. Don't let him down. After finishing his words, he strode to the locker room door, facing failure head-on. Qiu exhaled and followed him. The reason why he was convinced by Wei Xingtian wasn't because he was better than him, but because he was arrogant and unruly. But he didn't lack any of the responsibilities he should have. In the cafeteria of Songqing University, Lu Cheng put down the ointment bandages and the tray he was carrying, looked at his right arm that was bulging because of the bandage, and joked to Yinjika. I'm always a little worried. I always feel that the school hospital is a bunch of veterinarians. Yinjika sat opposite him, supported her cheek with one hand, and couldn't help but laugh. Aren't you scolding yourself? That's true. Lu Cheng held the chopsticks in his left hand, picked up the chicken in front of him, put it into his mouth, and showed off. Although my right hand can't do delicate work for now, my left hand is not bad. With his fine control of the muscles in his body, he could barely maintain his daily life with his left hand. Yinjika didn't change her posture, rolled her eyes and smiled. I also said that if your left hand is not convenient, I will reluctantly help you pick up some food and feed you, since you are so good. Lu Cheng suddenly had the impulse to bang his head against the wall. Why am I so stupid? He glanced at the plate, deliberately used the chopsticks to pick up the peanuts in the Kung Pao chicken. Pack, he didn't hold it firmly and dropped it. Pack, he didn't catch it again. You see, I can only pick up something that is easy to pick up. He looked at Yinjika eagerly. Yinjika rolled her cute eyes, looked at the ceiling of the cafeteria, held back her laughter, and said ruthlessly, Then eat the part that is easy to pick up, or I can give you a spoon. Lu Cheng was speechless for a moment. Seeing him like this, Yinjika's dimples appeared. She picked up a peanut and put it to his mouth, not daring to look at him, only looking at the two chopsticks. Lu Cheng was delighted, opened his mouth, and took a bite. After chewing carefully and swallowing, he praised, It's 100 times more delicious than usual. This is the taste of sweetness. Too exaggerated. Yinjika scolded with a smile, and then sighed with a slight blush. When I used to check Weibo and forums, every time I saw someone saying that the most tired couple was feeding each other in the cafeteria, I would like it. I never thought that I would have such a day. Chapter 140. Hearing Yinjika's exclamation, Lu Cheng felt sweet and happy. He smiled and said, You are not feeding a lovey-dovey couple, but caring for a disabled person. While speaking, he moved his right shoulder slightly. Uft. Yinjika was amused by Lu Cheng. You are so good at making fun of yourself. Making fun of myself every day makes life sunny and beautiful. Lu Cheng said humorously. As the days of dating increased, he felt that he could express himself more and more in front of girls. He was no longer so nervous, and could often be humorous and witty. Yinjika covered her mouth with her left hand, smiled and said in a low voice, Then I'll give you some sunshine. She reached out her chopsticks, broke a braised meatball, and put a small part of it in front of Lu Cheng's mouth. This time she didn't avoid his eyes. Her eyes were clear and her smile was shallow, like a pool of water that could drown people. Lu Cheng almost couldn't move his eyes away. He put the small part of the braised meatball into his mouth and stuffed it full. He didn't know if it was a psychological effect, but he really felt it was more delicious than usual. Looking at his wriggling cheeks, Yenjika supported her cheek with her left hand and smiled. She seemed to find it more interesting than eating. After finishing the meatball, Lu Cheng said in a low voice with a thick face, "I feel your sunshine, shining into my heart." Yenjika laughed and turned her head. She said with a slight blush, "You are so mushy. Are all boys so mushy after falling in love?" "I don't know about that. It's my first time falling in love. I've never seen how other people fall in love." Lu Cheng answered with a smile. "You should eat too. Don't just care about the disabled." Although it was sweet and memorable to be fed by a girl, it would be a great sin if she was hungry because of it. Yenjika was amused again. Her voice was soft and soft. Then she picked up a piece of cola chicken wing and nibbled it slowly. Lu Cheng felt that time flew by while feeding, eating and chatting. It seemed that in the blink of an eye, the dishes on the table and several bowls of rice were all gone. At this time, he thought of something and said deliberately, "Coach Yen, you may have a chance to play next week." Ah, Yenjika was stunned at first, but then she laughed and joked. "Wow, you're cursing senior brother Sun Jian and the others to get hurt. Do I look like that kind of person?" Lu Cheng asked back with an aggrieved expression. "Yes, you do." Yenjika answered affirmatively. Then she laughed like a beautiful flower. Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh. After the girl calmed down, he said seriously, "Actually, I'm more worried about Senior Li Mao. I don't know if he can overcome his nervousness this time. If the situation worsens, he might not be able to handle it and withdraw before the name list is submitted." "You're right." Yenjika thought of what had happened last semester. "I wonder if Senior Li Mao can get some counseling." Lu Cheng thought for a while and said, "I think that if I let him go at this time, he will only doubt himself more and feel more pressure. Besides, a week of tutoring won't do much good. The main thing is whether he can get out of it on his own." Yes, Coach sure should have a plan. He knows it. All of a sudden, she exclaimed in a low voice, "In that case, I might really be on the stage. What should I do? What should I do? I'm suddenly a little nervous." Lu Cheng laughed and said, "It's normal to be nervous. It can actually help you perform better." Speaking of this, he revealed his true intention. "How about we continue the actual combat training tomorrow afternoon?" Yenjika said worriedly, "You're injured. Just one arm. It's more than enough to be a sparring partner." Lu Cheng patted his chest exaggeratedly with his left hand. "Do you think I can't help using my right hand when I'm sparring with you? Who knows?" Yenjika deliberately dragged her voice. After a moment of silence, she said, "Well, you have to be careful." "Yes, yes." Lu Cheng beamed. "After the special training tomorrow, you go back to the dormitory and take a nap. I'll find you at 3 o'clock, and we'll go to the martial arts arena to train for an hour." "Oh right, I heard that the movie The Amazing Wizard is pretty good. Why don't we go to the city center and find a place to watch it? After 6 or 7 o'clock, we can go eat the stone fish that I mentioned before. It's very good." This was the arrangement he had planned for a long time. If he lost to Fearless Squad, he would invite Yenjika to watch a movie and eat stone fish in the name of relaxing. If he accidentally completed his small goal, of course, he would use the excuse of celebrating. All in all, they were all excuses to ask Yenjika out. Yenjika smiled and said, "What a coincidence. My roommate said that we would go to watch The Amazing Wizard together for a group activity tomorrow night." Ah, Lu Cheng felt like he was hit in the head. His brain was spinning quickly, thinking of how to bewitch the girl. At this time, Yenjika snorted and looked to the side. "Since you're a disabled person, I can only reluctantly let them down." "Good. Coach Yen is so beautiful and kind." Lu Cheng was overjoyed and complimented. This date didn't need to be checked out. They were all checked out last time. After complimenting, he asked casually, "The relationship between you roommates seems to be pretty good." "Yeah, there are good and bad dormitories everywhere. Like you guys, it should be the same, right?" Yenjika asked curiously. Lu Qing nodded and said, "My 2 roommates in the small dormitory are not too fussy. Their personal habits are okay, and they get along well. Our big dormitory next door has 2 weirdos. One of them would video chat with someone every day when he's free, regardless of whether his roommate is resting or not. The other has bad hygiene habits. His clothes are soaked in water, and he doesn't wash them. Therefore, they often have conflicts." Yenjika smiled and said, "The girls' dormitory is almost the same, but maybe girls are more attentive to details and care about more things. I leave early and come back late. Except for sleeping, I don't spend much time in the dormitory, so I have a good relationship with them." They talked about this topic for a while. Yenjika knew that Lu Qing was still tired, so she urged him to go back to the dormitory to rest. She planned to finish the homework she had accumulated last week. At this time, the sky was dark and the lights were on. Lu Qing walked Yenjika to the door of the 3rd building and chatted with her for a while. Then he saw her walking to the door of the dormitory. She suddenly turned around and said with a smile in the light, "Chung, you're awesome today." Yenjika finished her cute and encouraging pose and hurriedly turned around and ran into the corridor of the building. Lu Qing was in a daze. After a long time, he came to his senses and couldn't help but smile. "She was saying that I did a great job defeating the strong enemy this afternoon." In the corridor, Yenjika reached out her hands that were warmed by Lu Qing and put them on her cheeks. She felt the heat of embarrassment and happiness and scolded herself. "Why did I say it out loud? It's so embarrassing." Thinking of this, she suddenly realized something. She used the chopsticks that she had fed Lu Qing before to eat again. Does this count as an indirect kiss? Yenjika stopped at the corner of the corridor unconsciously. Her eyes were full of anger and embarrassment. Lu Qing walked briskly to his own dormitory, recalling every detail of his interaction with Yenjika along the way. Suddenly he said to himself happily, "It seems that she didn't change her chopsticks. She used the chopsticks that she fed me to eat again. This is an indirect kiss." Thinking of this, Lu Qing suddenly felt that the food before was 100 times sweeter. No, 1,000 times sweeter. Well, isn't this idea too wretched? Lu Qing tried to be serious, but he couldn't help thinking about it. Yenjika returned to the dormitory and saw that her roommates were all there. She took a deep breath and plucked up the courage to say, "I can't go to the movies tomorrow." "Why?" Li Liantong, who was sitting at the desk and writing a report, turned around and asked in surprise. Yenjika hesitated for a moment and decided to tell the truth. "I have to go on a date with my boyfriend." Her voice became lower and lower. "Date? Boyfriend?" Shi Xiangyang, who was lying on the bed playing with her phone, suddenly sat up and asked in surprise. Li Liantong and Zhong Yanru, who was playing games on the computer, also stood up at the same time. "You have a boyfriend? When did you have a boyfriend?" Yenjika was embarrassed by their sparkling eyes. She forced herself to keep calm and said, Just on Valentine's Day. Our relationship wasn't very stable before, so I didn't mention it." Is it the boy who stopped at the door of our dormitory and confessed?" Zhong Yanru and Yenjika were in the same major. She was the one who accompanied Yenjika back that day. She was natural and unrestrained, and didn't care about trifles. She was the lubricant for their good relationship in the dormitory. "No." Yenjika bit her lower lip and said, "He's a teammate of the martial arts club, a former high school classmate. I told you that you would get into trouble sooner or later if you kept going to the martial arts club." "You really got into trouble?" Li Liantong joked and gossiped. "What kind of boy is he? Isn't he handsome?" "No, his appearance is quite ordinary. He's clean and pleasing to the eye." Yenjika answered frankly. Li Liantong thought of something and suddenly laughed. "I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it. If it's too dirty, then don't say it." Yenjika answered without hesitation. Only 2 of her dormitory mates were from the School of Business and Economics. The other 2 were from the School of Clinical Medicine. Although Li Liantong had never had a boyfriend before, she was both dirty and dirty. She could often come up with shocking words. However, in front of outsiders she was dignified and pure. Li Liantong laughed and said, "Since his appearance is ordinary, Then he must have a lot of inner qualities, she emphasized the word inner qualities, which would create ambiguity when people heard it. Bah! Hello Dirty Tong, goodbye Dirty Tong. Yenjika laughed and scolded. Shi Xiangyang said with grief and indignation. Such a cute and beautiful girl like Ku was abducted just like that. I can't accept it. A lot of boys in our major are probably crying. Last time when Ku sent me textbooks, they were simply shocked. From time to time, they would ask me about the situation. Her sexual orientation was normal, but she loved beautiful things the most, including beautiful girls. Her catchphrase was white, fragrant, and soft girls. Who didn't like girls? The boys in our college will probably be devastated. The goodies have flowed into the fields of outsiders. Zhong Yinru also joked and then asked curiously, Ku, what kind of boy is he? Yenjika thought seriously and suddenly laughed. He's a silly guy, very silly. But he's considerate, gentle, and occasionally humorous. He's more attentive and attentive. As she spoke, she thought of the fresh cream cake that Lu Qing gave her. She thought of Lu Cheng's possible appearance when he was checking the spot, and his foolishness when he deliberately hid it. While she was recalling, she suddenly saw Li Liantong hand a mirror to her. She laughed and said, Ku, you look like a typical girl in love now. Women in love will become beautiful indeed. Yenjika looked at her in shock. She saw herself in the mirror unconsciously smiling. Her cheeks were slightly red, and her eyes were like stars. Gentleness was exposed and sweetness was hidden. She seemed shy and happy at the same time. She was so beautiful that even she was a little surprised. Is this how I look now? It's only been 10 days since Chung confessed. It's only been 10 days since I tried to accept. Chapter 141. While Yenjika was staring at herself in the mirror in a daze, Shi Xiangyang leaned on the edge of the bed and supported her chin with one hand. She praised and teased. Now I finally understand what glowing means. Li Liantong laughed and said, Ku, wait until you've been showered with love for a while. Then you'll understand what it means to be a beauty. Yenjika suddenly woke up and blurted out. Although I'm embarrassed by your compliment, I'll still accept it. But you have to explain why you use such a strange word like showering. Is it strange? Li Liantong laughed and said, You need to learn about it. Maybe it'll come in handy soon. Yenjika blushed and immediately changed the topic. Dirty Tong, look at you. You look so pure and pretty. Why are you so dirty? Yenjika looked at Dirty Tong and said, Dirty Tong, why are you so dirty? This is called storing up theoretical knowledge. Li Liantong's expression didn't change. Yenjika continued. Of the two boys who chased after you, which one did you like? None of them. Li Liantong suddenly realized something. Don't try to drag me into this matter. You have to bring your boyfriend out, and let us see who has captured your heart. We have to bring him out for a walk. That's right. As your boyfriend, he didn't even treat us to a meal. That's so incompetent. I don't know how he managed to chase after you. Zhong Yinru also joined in. She was a little chubby but not ugly. Born in a divorced family, she developed a generous and caring character. Shi Xiangyang immediately patted the bed and echoed, I'm going to face my love rival. I want to see how he managed to kidnap our fair, fragrant and soft Ku. She was a tall girl with wheat-colored skin. When she was not wearing glasses, she would look rather muddle-headed. However, once she put on glasses, held a scalpel, and faced a little white mouse and a little white rabbit, she looked a little like a cold killer described by Li Liantong. Yenjika couldn't handle their teasing and had to surrender. Okay. I'll bring him to meet you and treat you to a meal when I have time. Lu Qing took out the key with his left hand and opened the door of his own dormitory. The living room was empty, but there was a lingering smell of alcohol. We're having a weekend meal together and playing online games? He guessed the whole story and walked slowly to his little dormitory. Suddenly, he heard the sound of the doorknob turning quickly. His heart skipped a beat, and he immediately took a few steps back. At this moment, the wooden door of Kai Zhongming's dormitory opened, and Zhao Chong, Qin Mo, and the others jumped out. They were holding something that was used during birthday celebrations, and they sprayed it in front of Lu Cheng. The colorful strips almost fell to Lu Cheng's feet, and they almost covered his head and face. "Welcome back, our great master." Kai Zhongming looked at Lu Qing cheekily. "Surprise! Surprise my ass." Lu Qing scolded jokingly. "How did you come up with this idea?" "Fortunately, my senses were sharp and I retreated in time. Otherwise, I would have to take another bath. With one hand injured, this was a difficult thing to do." Kai Zhongming pointed at Qin Mo and said, "After we asked about your injury, we just wanted to congratulate you verbally. But Qin Mo insisted on doing something to make it livelier and grander. We thought that since we had nothing to do, we might as well just let him be." He had a helpless look on his face, as if they were adults accompanying a child. But Lu Qing clearly remembered that little Ming was the one who made the most noise, and was most pleased with himself. "What surprise? I'm not fooling around. I'm just grateful to Cheng for making me proud in front of my friends." Qin Mo, who looked like a refined beast, immediately retorted. "What do you mean?" Kai Zhongming asked in surprise. Obviously, he had never heard Qin Mo mention this before. Zhao Chong and the others were also curious, waiting for Qin Mo to answer their doubts. Qin Mo laughed and said, "Let me drink a mouthful of hot tea and slowly explain." Hoofed. Lu Qing almost burst out laughing. He felt that although Qin Mo, a rich second generation, didn't have much interaction with his roommates in the entertainment circle, he had a good personality and was easy to get along with. In the afternoon, everyone in the dormitory felt exhausted after watching Lu Qing and the others' tough and fierce competition. Qin Mo took out his phone and took a blurry picture of the TV. He opened it and shared it proudly. "Congratulations to my awesome roommate for winning. He defeated 3 opponents by himself." After everyone had played a few games online, he picked up his phone again to see if there were any replies. He saw that many people liked his post, and many people asked what the competition was. After replying to group stage of preliminaries, he found that a friend who often competed with him also replied, "What kind of awesome fighters can you college students have? I know a real young master who is quite famous in the martial arts circle of Songcheng. Last time, 3 big men were holding him down, but he just shook them and threw them away. Isn't he awesome? Zheng Xiao, you're better at bragging than singing. My classmate defeated a professional 9th pin fighter." Qin Mo couldn't help but show off. Zheng Xiao's original name was Zheng Xiaowen. He had an older sister at home, and could be considered a real rich second generation. Zheng Xiaowen immediately replied, "Stop bragging, you beast. If he can defeat a professional 9th pin fighter, he definitely won't be unknown. Tell me his name. What if I know him? Why don't I let him fight with the master I know?" "Fine, his name is Lu Qing. If you have the ability, you can go and find out," Qin Mo said stubbornly. Zheng Xiaowen was drinking afternoon tea with someone. He looked at his phone and smiled. He raised his head and asked, "My buddy loves to brag. He said he knows a super awesome young master. Can you help me?" Beside him sat a young man with sharp eyes. He smiled and said, "A super awesome young master? In the circle of Songcheng, I should know him." Zheng Xiaowen laughed and said, "Didn't I tell you? He loves to brag. What if he pulls an amateur fighter out of nowhere? You definitely won't know him. Tell me, what's his name? Maybe we can learn from each other." The young man with sharp eyes smiled indifferently. Zheng Xiaowen took a sip of tea and said, "Lu Qing? I've never heard of him." The young man with sharp eyes was stunned. After a while he asked, "Lu Qing from Songcheng University?" Yes. My buddy is from Songcheng University. He said he's his classmate." Zheng Xiaowen observed carefully and said, "Is he really that awesome?" The young man with sharp eyes nodded heavily and said, "He's really awesome." "How about compared to you?" Zheng Xiaowen asked in surprise. At his current age, he was still receiving education. The mature masters of Danqi State would at most be polite to him for the sake of his father. They wouldn't hang out with him for no reason. Among the martial artists he played with, this guy was the best. The young man with sharp eyes thought of the fight that just ended. He thought of the gesture that made everyone shut up, and the fact that Lu Qing had only been practicing martial arts for half a year. Although he didn't want to admit it, he still nodded with difficulty and answered, "He's better than me." "Better than you?" Zheng Xiaowen gasped. He didn't dare to answer Qin Mo's questions anymore. He didn't dare to mention anything about learning from each other. Haha, I feel so good when I think of Zheng Xiaoer's face. Cheng, you're awesome. You're famous in the martial arts circle of Songcheng. Qin Mo laughed heartily. Before Lu Cheng could say anything, Qiu Zhigao asked in confusion, how did you know the situation on the other side? You even know the details of their conversation. Qin Mo laughed and said, it's not just the two of us having afternoon tea. Most of Zheng Xiaoer's friends are also my friends. I sold him out so quickly. Although he didn't want to admit it, Lu Qing felt a little happy. He thought for a while and said, what's the name of the young martial artist that Zheng Xiaoer knows? Maybe I know him too. Pan Qingyun. Qin Mo answered honestly. Lu Qing frowned and shook his head. It sounds familiar, but I don't think I know him. His roommates didn't bother with this question. Kai Zhongming laughed and said, Cheng, they said it's time to give you a new nickname. Iron Lung for lungs 8 lungs. I think those are too tacky, so I suggested Perpetual Motion Machine. Lu Qing was stunned. He thought for a while and said, Perpetual Motion Machine. It's okay, but it's a little weird. What's weird? A perpetual motion machine with unlimited stamina. As Kai Zhongming explained, he smirked and gestured a pile-driving exercise. Never stop exercising. F***ck off. You perverted guy, I don't know you. Lu Qing scolded jokingly. While they were talking and laughing, the door suddenly opened. Tang Wen came in from outside. Tang Wen, didn't you go to the calculus exam? Qin Mo asked in surprise. Tang Wen said absent-mindedly, I finished the exam. It was all the knowledge points that Professor Zhang taught me that afternoon. He didn't accept any gifts. Professor Zhang is a model teacher. Zhao Chang sighed. He doesn't take a grade card. Tang Wen suddenly showed an expression worse than crying. But I still don't know how to do it. Lu Cheng and the others were stunned. They looked at each other and didn't know what to say or how to comfort him. Back in the small dormitory, he put his phone in place and typed quickly on the keyboard with his left hand. He shared with Yenjika the fact that he was in the limelight even though he wasn't there. Yenjika sent an emoji covering its mouth and laughing. That's awesome. Chung, you're now a person who can use your name. After chatting for a while, she mentioned the request of her roommates. Those little bitches want you to treat them to a meal. They want to see if you have 3 heads and 6 arms. I'm sorry to disappoint them. I'm a one-armed hero. Lu Cheng was very happy that Yenjika was willing to tell her roommates about their relationship. Coach Yen, you decide when to treat them to a meal. Then Monday at noon, Yenjika sent a pitiful emoji with her eyes wide open. You don't know how badly they teased me. Lu Cheng quickly comforted her and listened to her complaining. When she went to do her homework, he opened the web page to see the praise on the forum. As soon as he opened it, he was stunned because all the posts on the homepage were cursing him. Trash who uses dirty tricks. Disgusting person who doesn't have the demeanor of a martial artist. Villain who gets his way. Immoral. Arrogant people don't have a good ending. Did the forum explode? Lu Cheng was no stranger to this. He was a little angry, a little annoyed, and a little worried about his fans. But he soon calmed down and closed the webpage rationally. If he cursed with this group of people, not only would it ruin his mood, but it would also be a waste of time. Anyway, they were just venting for a while, and it would be over soon. At that time he could help to push up the top posts. The best way to slap their faces was to become stronger and defeat more and more masters. Then they could only look up to him. Even if they spit out dirty water, it would only fall on themselves. Calming himself down, Lu Cheng recalled every detail of today's match. He analyzed his responses from a bystander's point of view and reviewed his mistakes and habits. Gradually, he felt that he had gained something new. For example, attacking the genitals wasn't a bad or ineffective move, but as long as it was appropriate, it would be easy for the enemy to use it as an opportunity to set a trap for him. When he said good night to Yenjika, he felt that he was strong again. The enemy's hatred was the best reward for him. Chapter 142. The sky was still dark, and the street lights were still shining. Lu Cheng woke up early as usual, 10 minutes earlier than usual. After trying to take off his clothes to sleep last night, he found that it would be very difficult and time-consuming to put on his clothes when his right arm was injured. After a while, he finally got everything ready. After washing up, he sent a message to Yen Jika, who was sleeping soundly, complaining about the hardships of being a disabled person. Then, with a relaxed mood, he took a deep breath of fresh air that nourished his lungs and enjoyed the silence when everyone else was asleep, and he was the only one awake. He jogged slowly to the lakeside, persisting in his daily training that had become a habit. When he arrived at the usual place, he saw his master waiting for him. He hurriedly greeted him respectfully. Geezer nodded slightly. Good. You didn't leave the line of fire with a minor injury. You know how to persist. You have to remember this perseverance. It's the foundation of how far you can go on the road of martial arts. Yes, master. Lu Cheng answered seriously. At the same time, he complained secretly in his heart. I'm not used to master suddenly speaking so politely. Geezer didn't say more. He reminded him. For 5 days, you can only practice the still stance and the moving stance routine that doesn't involve the arm. Otherwise, your injury will worsen. Lu Cheng nodded and asked curiously, Master, does Lin Ke really have to rest for a week and can't practice anything? Of course. Do you think I've eaten all these years for nothing? How could I be wrong about such a small injury? Geezer said unhappily. But it's good for him. Good? Lu Cheng was confused. Geezer laughed. Lin Ke's character is too stubborn and introverted. He doesn't know how to relax, and his whole body is too tense. Even if he understands the meaning of withdraw, he doesn't have the state of mind to grasp and complete it. Now that he's injured and has to leave martial arts for a week, he can passively relax and experience life without daily training. Although he won't be used to it at first, and will feel empty and irritated, after a few days, he should be able to understand the meaning of still. Being able to release and withdraw is the Danchi realm. Master has a good grasp of Lin Ke's problem. Lu Cheng sighed quietly. For the members of the martial arts club, it was a lifetime of luck to meet such a good coach in the last years of their lives. The most critical time for martial arts improvement. To him, that was the luckiest of the luckiest. With a grateful attitude, he devoutly devoted himself to practicing martial arts. He first practiced the yin-yang stance, condensation stance, and other basic still stances a few times to review the old and learn the new. Then he gathered his strength and slowly practiced one move after another, tempering every part of his body except his injured arm. At the end of the practice, he closed his eyes and visualized a sound picture of thunderclouds in his mind. His abdomen wriggled and pulled his throat, making waves of low thunder sounds. They worked together with the continuous tightening and explosion of muscles to create rhythmic vibrations. Bit by bit, they tempered the bones and indirectly affected the changes of the bone marrow inside, creating more vital blood to flow through the 5 viscera and 6 bowels. They complemented each other with the vibration of the thunder sounds to improve the strength and ability of each organ. After experiencing the thunder roar Zen passively in the battle with Wei Xingtian, he had completely mastered the still stance visualization and training routines of this martial arts. He was like a fish in water when he practiced. As for the actual combat method of external vibration, he needed to recover from his injured arm and spend some time to explore and try before he could master it. But no matter what, at least he had found the direction and opened the door. The 5 viscera, 6 bowels, and various organs were all precious treasures of the human body. They were delicate and fragile. Lu Cheng controlled the time of his cultivation, so as not to overdo it. In less than 20 minutes, he stopped and opened his eyes. Not bad, there's a bit of charm. You can practice by yourself for the next half an hour. I'm going to enjoy my breakfast. Geezer nodded and leisurely turned to leave. Lu Cheng thought for a while and began to jog around the lake for endurance training. After such a torturous battle with the fearless squad, he deeply realized the importance of physical strength and consciously wanted to improve it. Lu Cheng considered this point very clearly. Don't be fooled by the fact that his physical strength was abnormal, and he couldn't see the limit. This was all provided by the Jean Dan. If one day he lost it, wouldn't he be beaten back to his original state? After all, he couldn't rely on external forces for a long time. Only things that were thoroughly internalized could truly belong to him. Using the Jean Dan to improve himself was the fundamental path. He couldn't put the cart before the horse. After running for 10 minutes, Lu Qing suddenly saw a familiar face. Li Mao was standing on the stone by the lake, looking at the weak ripples on the surface of the lake. Could it be that he was so nervous and guilty that he wanted to commit suicide by jumping into the lake? Lu Qing was shocked. He took a few big strides forward. When he was close, he shouted, "Senior Li Mao?" Li Mao turned his head. There was no sign of self-blame on his square face. He said in surprise, "Cheng, why are you here?" Lu Qing observed for a moment and confirmed that he was overthinking. So he smiled and said, "I train around here every morning. Senior Li Mao, this is your first time here. I should be the one asking you this, right?" Li Mao showed an expression of sudden realization. He whispered to himself, "Sure enough, no one's success comes without a reason." As he spoke, he jumped off Shijing and smiled bitterly. "When I think about how I'm going to be part of the main force next Saturday, I'm a little nervous. Last night, I tossed and turned and couldn't sleep well. I woke up early in the morning, thinking of coming to the lakeside to get some fresh air and calm down." He glanced at Lu Qing and asked curiously, "Don't you feel nervous when you're in the arena?" "Nervous? How can I not be nervous?" Lu Qing laughed and said, "But my first challenge tournament was in Yanling, a foreign place. No one knew me at all. If I lost, I lost. I wouldn't lose face. When I thought about it, I wasn't so nervous. When I won the first round by planning beforehand, I felt more confident and gradually got used to the atmosphere of the challenge tournament. I could control myself and only feel a moderate amount of nervousness. As for when I meet a stronger opponent, such as Wei Xingtian, I always tell myself one thing." Li Mao listened with great interest and blurted out, "What is it?" "I tell myself, what's there to be nervous about? You should feel lucky to meet such a strong opponent in the arena, and not in the life and death arena." Lu Qing said concisely with a lot of emotion. Because the case of the 9th pin of the dark sect involved other matters, and Zhang Mingle had absconded, the police were still in the process of follow-up investigation. According to a later call from Director Xing, the earliest time he would be required to testify in court would be in May. It might even be delayed until the summer holidays. And to avoid suspicion, he didn't visit Wang Su in the hospital until the end of the winter holidays. Li Mao was stunned. He felt that Lu Qing's plain words had a deeper meaning. After a long time, he took a breath and said, "I always feel that you are more mature than me. Sai, this nervousness of mine is an old problem. I can't change it. I don't know why." "You don't know why?" Lu Qing teased. "I thought you would tell me a sad story about how you were slapped in the palm by your teacher when you were young. That's why it left a psychological scar. Just like every time Detective Conan solved a case, the murderer would always tell a sad story that made the listeners cry." Li Mao couldn't help but laugh. "I thought about it seriously. It's not an external reason. It's just my nervousness. I thought I had overcome a lot this time. I didn't expect that when it came to the end, it didn't change much." Lu Qing thought for a while and said, "Senior Brotherly, don't worry too much about this. I think that this kind of old problem can't be cured in a short time. It can only be changed slowly, bit by bit, through the challenge tournament again and again. It's normal for you to be especially nervous about the competition next week. You don't have to blame yourself for it. Anyway, this is just an actual battle training, not a result. Once you seize the opportunity and win a match, you will gradually like the challenge tournament. That makes sense. I was too impatient to see a change and became more nervous?" Li Mao muttered thoughtfully. Lu Qing thought for a while and suddenly asked, "Senior Li, do you have a girlfriend? Why did you ask this?" Li Mao looked at Lu Qing in confusion, but answered honestly, "No. I used to like my desk mate in high school. Unfortunately, she didn't like me and found another boyfriend. I haven't been able to get over it. I always feel that I haven't completely gotten over it, so I don't want to hurt other girls." Speaking of this, he sighed and said, "When I first joined the martial arts club, my main purpose was to find something to kill time and divert my attention, so that I wouldn't always recall the past. Sigh, at that time it was really melancholy, loss and pain. After half a semester I almost calmed down. I joined the martial arts course again for the sake of securing a job in the future. I had the same idea as Jiang Fuxing and Li Xiaowen. Nowadays, it's getting harder and harder for college students to find a job. I need to prepare earlier and more. At that time, I actually didn't have any feelings for the martial arts club. It wasn't until I saw the painful faces of Lin Kei, Chen Zhonghua, and the others and heard Coach Shi's encouragement that I fell in love with this place and this atmosphere. I really wanted to do something for the martial arts club and didn't want to be a burden to everyone. I've been training hard these days because I saw you guys improve so fast and so fiercely. I was afraid that I would be left far behind if I slacked off and couldn't make up for my mistakes." Listening to Li Mao's sentiments, Lu Qing couldn't help but sigh. Senior Li Mao was usually a more active and cheerful member of the special training team, who knew that he had so many things on his mind. After saying this, Li Mao seemed to relax a lot. He asked in confusion, "Why did you ask me if I have a girlfriend? Are you going to introduce one to me?" "No," Lu Qing chuckled. "I just want to say that Senior Sun Jian is not afraid of failure or losing face when he has a girlfriend. You're a single dog who doesn't even have a girlfriend. Who cares if you lose face? Why are you so nervous?" Li Mao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He clenched his left fist and shook it gently. "Senior Li Mao, come on." Without waiting for Li Mao's response, he turned around and continued his endurance training. Li Mao was in a daze for a long time. Finally, he clenched his fist and said to himself, "Come on." The special training on Sunday morning passed quickly. Lu Cheng and Yenjika went back to the dormitory after lunch. They took the time to take a nap and recharge. When they were about to leave, he stood in the bathroom and carefully cleaned himself up. He was full of expectation for the next date. Although he felt very satisfied just practicing martial arts with Yenjika, holding hands, watching movies and sharing food with her, people were always greedy. Moreover, Yenjika said that she needed time to adapt when she accepted his confession, which made him a little nervous. He always hoped that there would be continuous progress, and he always wanted to be more certain. "I don't know if I can finish my first kiss today." Lu Cheng was in a daze. He touched the chewing gum in his pocket, and the first gift for Yenjika. "P.S. Today I'm going back home after a rush. Let me make a copy. Otherwise, I'll be in a bit of a rush every time." Chapter 143. Because he didn't have the time or opportunity to leave school, Lu Cheng bought the gift through the official flagship store online. When he received the package in time, he thanked the online shopping and express delivery. He thanked them for making the world so king convenient. "Well, I can't appear too eager and have too much hope, so as not to scare Yenjika. If there's a chance, I'll give it a try. If there's no chance, I'll wait for the next time." Looking at himself in the mirror, Lu Cheng silently encouraged himself. Then he took out a piece of chewing gum, unwrapped it, stuffed it into his mouth, and seriously stirred it. Although he might not have a chance, and although he didn't have bad breath, it's always better to be prepared. It's always good to leave a perfect impression on the girl during the first kiss. Chewing the gum, Lu Cheng walked out of his own dormitory, walked along the pedestrian street, and arrived outside Building 3 where Yenjika lived. He sent a message to her, telling her that she could come out now. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he found a trash can and spit out the gum, so as not to reveal his wild ambition and make the girl vigilant and resistant. Yenjika was always punctual. Lu Cheng didn't have to wait long before he saw her coming out with martial arts training-related items in her hands. Because the weather was getting warmer, the girl wore a thin white sweater, a short orange coat, a black pleated skirt, a pair of matching leggings and a pair of small boots. She was different from her usual student style, but she didn't look mature, still full of youth. Moreover, she seemed to have applied something lightly on her face, which made her fair skin more rosy, delicate and charming. Her eyes were bright and spirited like stars. Lu Cheng, who was starting to get used to her beauty, was stunned again. For a moment, he stared at her blankly and forgot to greet her. He also ignored the chubby girl beside Yinjika. Zhong Yinru couldn't help but laugh. She moved closer to Yinjika's ear and said in a low voice, "You're really silly. But looking at you now, which boy wouldn't be silly?" Yinjika turned her head and smiled. She seemed to be quite satisfied with Lu Cheng's reaction, but she said, "Look at his silly look. If I had known, I wouldn't have let you come down with me." Lu Cheng, who had been following the girl with his eyes, was awakened by her movement. He hurriedly took a deep breath and walked up to her. He said a little shyly, "I was too engrossed just now." He was about to add, "You look especially beautiful today," when he suddenly noticed that there was a girl beside Yinjika. He was afraid that the shy girl wouldn't be able to accept it, so he stopped abruptly. Yinjika pursed her lips and didn't respond to Lu Cheng's compliment directly. With a smile she introduced, "This is my roommate Zhong Yinru. She's a really nice girl, just a little noisy." She turned her head and said to Zhong Yinru, "He is Lu Cheng. You saw his silly look just now." These words made Lu Cheng's face turn slightly red, and Zhong Yinru couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh softly. Facing other girls, Lu Cheng no longer felt uneasy, even if she was a girl's roommate. Therefore he smiled calmly and generously. "Hello, are you Ka's roommate from the same major? You know?" Zhong Yinru looked at Yinjika in surprise. Yinjika shook her head innocently, indicating that she didn't say that before. Lu Cheng smiled and explained, "Ka would occasionally mention her roommates. Every time, I would take a notebook and remember them, thinking that if I don't succeed in my confession, or if there is a conflict in the future, I can take a roundabout way and take the route of the masses." She said that her roommate from the same major has the best personality, natural and unrestrained, and is very warm-hearted. Just now, she specially emphasized that you are especially nice, so I thought that it should be the same person, so I made a bold guess. He seized the opportunity and successfully got the nickname Ku. Zhong Yinru was pleasantly surprised. She didn't expect Yinjika to praise her in front of her boyfriend. It seemed that she sincerely felt that her personality was good, and that she was a friend that could be with for a long time. She couldn't help but look at Yinjika, feeling warm in her heart. Who doesn't like to hear good words, especially such sincere words behind one's back? Yinjika didn't expect Lu Cheng to not only respond appropriately, but also help her to make a good impression on Zhong Yinru. For a moment, she felt pleased and proud, and her heart was filled with sweetness. She snorted and said proudly, "If there is a conflict in the future? Now you're thinking about how to bully me in the future? Damn, why is the focus of a girl's attention different from mine?" Lu Cheng was a little dumbfounded, but he quickly recovered and said with a smile, "I'm just afraid that I will make a mistake, right?" "Oomph. What kind of mistake are you planning to make?" Yinjika said coquettishly. Lu Cheng suddenly had a feeling that he should never argue with a girl. He held back his laughter and said, "For example, trying to be brave and getting hurt or something like that." At this point he quickly changed the topic and looked at Zhong Yinru, saying, "Since you are the roommate from the same major, then I have to thank you for helping Ku block the harassment on Valentine's Day. Otherwise, I could only cry and faint in the corner." Although the incident on Valentine's Day still left a deep impression in his mind, it felt as if it had been a long time. When he was with Yinjika, he always felt that time flew by, and that they would be separated in the blink of an eye. But when he thought about what happened 10 days ago, it felt as if a century had passed, as if he and Yinjika had been dating for a century. This was really a strange feeling. Seeing the boy in front of her calm, confident, and humorous, Zhong Yinru nodded secretly and gave him high marks. She felt that he was a good match for Yinjika, so she made a gesture of shivering and said with a smile, "Don't thank me. Your conversation just now was so corny. I'd better go back to the dormitory and focus on memorizing my foreign words." After saying that, she waved her hand and turned to walk back to the dormitory. When she was about to reach the entrance of the unit, she looked back and saw Lu Cheng holding Yinjika's right hand. whispering and laughing as they left together. The girl was as beautiful as a flower, and the boy was calm and confident. They were a pair that made people envious. The sour smell of love. Zhong Yinru scolded with a smile. Then she fell into a daze and sighed, saying, I want it too. She didn't ask for it to be good. Just half as good as the one just now. In the martial arts arena, Yenjika changed into the Songqing University Martial Arts Club uniform with white and black edges. She tied her drooping black hair into a ponytail, looking fresh and pretty. It was a different kind of beauty. Looking at her, Lu Qing felt a sense of pride. But in broad daylight, with so many people watching, he was too embarrassed to go up and hug the girl. He had to take into account her thin face. As for his own face, is it edible? Is it more important than a hug? Boys, in this aspect, are always getting thicker and thicker, to the point of being shameless. He put away his thoughts and smiled. Let's practice pushing hands and listening first. You're stronger than most of the amateur fighters, in that you can enter meditation, so you have to play to your strengths and avoid your weaknesses, so that you can use your advantages to defeat the enemy and win. Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. Why do I feel like our roles are reversed, and you're the coach? Aren't I just repeating your usual teachings, Coach Yen? Lu Qing fawned over her. Meditation has two main functions in actual combat. One is listening, and the other is controlling your own muscles, fine-tuning the details of your body, and accomplishing things like forcibly changing the center of gravity and constantly borrowing force. Yenjika stopped smiling and listened attentively. She nodded seriously and said, So we should practice pushing hands and listening first, and then practice 24 blizzard strikes in actual combat. You're right, Coach Yen. Lu Qing smiled and gave her a thumbs up. If you can master these two aspects, it'll be helpful for your family's martial arts. At that time, even if you encounter an amateur 1 or 2 pin at the peak of physical strength, you'll still have a chance. Even if I encounter Chen Zhanghua's fighting style, I won't be taken advantage of. Well then let's start. Yenjika bit her lower lip lightly, her eyes bright, eager to try. Lu Qing reached out his left hand and put it on Yenjika's palm. While feeling the delicate softness of her skin, he said, Calm down and try to enter the state of concealment of spirit and qi. Also maintain the feeling of half meditation. You can't completely immerse yourself in it, or you'll ignore the external. He told Yenjika his experience in this aspect bit by bit, and racked his brains to make her understand. During this process, he gradually understood some of the specious parts, and found many hidden problems. Teaching and learning are mutually beneficial, and education is combined with fun. That's probably what they mean. Lu Qing thought happily. Although the girl didn't have Jindan, and her meditation was only a small success, she had a lot more knowledge than Lu Qing in terms of martial arts. After several failures in the beginning, she gradually got the feeling, and groped for the trick of half meditation. Well, you can tell where my next move is through the changes of my muscles and pores on my skin. Lu Qing asked in a low voice. Yenjika quietly listened and said, You're going to whip your left leg. Yes, but I'm still a little bit off. I'm not going to whip my left leg. I'm going to take a step forward with my left leg and hit you sideways. Lu Qing corrected her. This kind of conversation kept happening. Yenjika showed her talent in this aspect. Although she wasn't as abnormal as Lu Qing, she soon got the hang of it. The more she practiced, the happier and more energetic she became. Unknowingly, 40 minutes passed. Lu Qing suddenly heard a teasing voice. Is this how the two of you train? I'm so envious of you. He and Yenjika turned their heads at the same time, only to see Li Mao passing by with the bag of martial arts suit and shoes. Yenjika blushed again, and hurriedly let go of his hand. We're practicing listening skill. Lu Qing answered seriously, without a trace of shyness. Yes. I won't disturb you too. I'm going to the other side. Li Mao teased and left with a big laugh. Yenjika slightly blushed and lowered her eyes. After a while she said, Senior brother Li seems to be more relaxed. Maybe he figured something out. Lu Qing guessed and then suggested, How about we practice the 24 blizzard strikes in real combat? He couldn't practice listening skill anymore. What if Yenjika didn't want to go on a date anymore? Okay. Yenjika took a deep breath to sober herself up. Lu Qing only defended and helped Yenjika to achieve a better experience of constantly borrowing strength from the opponent. Although he couldn't use one of his hands, he kept his footwork well and could always avoid the attacks on his right side in time. Under Yenjika's fierce attacks, he didn't fall down after one round. After one round, Yenjika bent over, put her hands on her knees, and gasped for breath. The real 24 blizzard strikes for strikes is really exhausting. No wonder my cousin could only fight one round. Her previous 24 blizzard strikes against Guiqing could only be considered a beginner. Lu Qing thought of something and said with a serious face, "Are your muscles sore? Do you want me to give you a massage to help you relax?" Yenjika rolled her eyes at him and hummed, "Let's talk about it after you master the technique of massage." Lu Qing silently remembered and decided to learn how to massage next. After resting for a while, they took a shower and changed their clothes. Instead of going back to the dormitory, they went directly to the school bus station. Of course, Lu Qing was the one carrying all the things, while Yenjika seemed to have lightly applied something. Her skin was white and rosy, and her lips were pink and moist, which made Lu Qing feel restless. According to his plan, he would surprise Yenjika with the gift while watching a movie in a dark environment, and seize the opportunity to kiss her when she was touched. That kind of environment was more secluded, and he chose a seat near the back where the audience wouldn't notice, which could minimize Yenjika's shyness and timidity. What a perfect plan. P.S. My Weixin official account is holding a lottery to give away signed books and peripherals as a thank you for your support during this time. If you follow Wuze 1985, you will have a chance to win starting tomorrow. Chapter 144. In the cinema with the lights off, Lu Qing couldn't calm down. He couldn't help but look at Yenjika beside him, waiting for the amazing wizard to enter a relatively ordinary stage, so that he could give her the gift and kiss her without disturbing her mood. So far, everything had gone according to his expectations. The 2 rows behind him and the seats around him were almost empty, so he didn't have to worry about being stared at and making her feel shy and awkward. The movie was also very good, and the little details were very warm and funny, making her laugh in a low voice from time to time, full of happiness. The environment was dark and private, suitable for fermenting intimate feelings. In other words, everything was ready, except for the east wind. Thinking of this, Lu Qing's mouth was a little dry. He pursed his lips and reached out to touch the gift in his pocket. It was a colorful gold bracelet. He had combined various suggestions from the internet and chosen the ones that he thought were reasonable. Now he had his own opinion on the first gift between lovers. Regardless of the type of gift that the other party lacked or liked, the first time one gave a gift to a lover was definitely when both parties had just started dating, or even when they hadn't officially started dating. They were far from knowing each other well enough, and their tastes and preferences had yet to be fully exposed. In this case, the first gift must be one that could evoke good memories of each other. It was suitable for couples who had known each other for a long time. Looking at it could remind them of the warmth of the past. This could reflect the intention of the gift giver and the memories of the relationship. However, Lu Qing thought that he had only known Yenjika for half a year and had only dated her for 10 days. Giving such a gift was still lacking in depth and atmosphere. He planned to look for his little notebook on the anniversary of their relationship and edit some words and scenes to make a corresponding gift. Eliminating the first choice, when a guy still couldn't grasp the details of a girl's aesthetic standards, he should never ask for something fresh, unique, and original. In that case, with a man's poor aesthetic standards, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to get his girlfriend's point. She would be moved by the gift, but unable to complain at the same time. When she went back, she would hide it in a corner and only keep it as a souvenir. Therefore, at this time it was not wrong to follow the rules. The classic was not necessarily bad, but at least it would not make the surprise turn into a shock. The value of the gift should not be too cheap, and it should be the best within the limits of one's ability. The kind that was cheap and unique could wait for future opportunities. The first time always had a special meaning. After careful consideration, Lu Cheng decided to give up the idea for the time being. He decided to buy a bracelet together in the future. Instead, he chose a bracelet that could be adjusted to fit the size of the bracelet. When it came to the specific purchase, he thought that gold was too vulgar and not suitable for young people. He couldn't afford platinum and diamonds, so he finally settled on the more fashionable colored gold. With rose pink as the base, 6 small hearts were strung together. One was golden, and the other was silver. It was quite beautiful, and was worth nearly 1,000 yuan. Of course, whether it was beautiful or not was just a conclusion that Lu Cheng came to based on the opinions of the girls in the evaluation and his own feelings. But Yin Zhika was not a girl after all. She had her own aesthetic standards. Whether she would think it was beautiful or not was still unknown. He could only say that such a bracelet would not be too ugly for her. After touching the bracelet, Lu Cheng looked at Yin Zhika beside him restlessly. He saw that under the dim light of the big screen, the girl had a faint sense of beauty. Her outline was extremely delicate. Looking at Yin Zhika's smile, Lu Cheng quietly took a breath and leaned over. His left hand slowly stretched out of his pocket. At this moment, Yin Zhika suddenly moved closer. She was afraid to disturb others and whispered with a smile, "It's so funny. That owl just now was so silly and cute." Lu Cheng was startled and put his left hand back. Seeing that the girl was staring at the screen with bright eyes and focusing on the plot, he felt a strong sense of guilt for interrupting her. Let's wait a little longer. When the plot is not so interesting. He made up his mind and leaned his head to Yin Zhika, whispering in her ear, "Yeah, that owl was so silly and happy." Being close to her, Lu Cheng smelled the light and sweet fragrance of the girl and felt her hair brushing his face due to his breath. He was instantly intoxicated and enjoyed this closeness. They talked about the plot intermittently and in a low voice for a while. His nose was full of the girl's beautiful smell. He could not help but feel restless and put his left hand into his pocket. "I'm so worried. Will he die?" Yin Zhika suddenly grabbed Lu Cheng's right hand and looked at the screen nervously without blinking. How could I interrupt her like this? Lu Cheng felt like crying but had no tears. He put the bracelet back. Phew, that's good. After a while, Yin Zhika exhaled and looked at Lu Cheng. She lowered her voice and said, "Cheng, why are you acting so weird?" "I was also very worried just now," Lu Cheng answered sadly. "Yeah, I'm super nervous." Yin Zhika agreed. Lu Cheng enjoyed the close communication between the two of them, looking for opportunities again and again. However, Yin Zhika had been watching the movie attentively and seriously for the whole time without a pee. Next time, I'll choose a less interesting movie next time. Lu Cheng silently clenched his fist and regretted. He gave up the idea of kissing and disappointment and concentrated on the intimacy. Unknowingly, the movie ended, and the ending song and thank you list began. Yin Zhika tried to sit up straight and wait for the lights to turn on. At this moment, Lu Cheng's right hand that was holding hers tightened slightly and pulled her back. Yin Zhika was afraid that if she sat up straight it would affect Lu Cheng's wound. She gave up and looked at Lu Cheng with a pair of slightly innocent eyes in confusion. Lu Cheng took a breath and said the lines that he had practiced over and over again. "Beauty, you dropped something." "Ah." Yin Zhika looked confused. She was so cute that Lu Cheng almost forgot to take out the gift. At this moment the lights turned on. Lu Cheng took out his left hand from his pocket and said with a smile, "You dropped a bracelet." While speaking, he let go of his right hand and held the girl's wrist. With the help of his left hand, he put on the bracelet with difficulty. Yin Zhika was stunned at first. When she saw it clearly, she suddenly raised her right hand and covered her mouth. Her eyes were shining like water. She was surprised and happy at the same time. When she saw Lu Cheng's clumsy movements because of the inconvenience of his right hand, her eyebrows curved and her smile was gentle and tender. "Very beautiful." She took back her hand and looked at it carefully. She lowered her eyebrows and smiled gently. Her face was full of surprise and blush. Lu Cheng saw that the girl was really happy and became very happy himself. He smiled and said, "It's good that you like it." Yenjika smiled and blurted out. Why do you want to give me a bracelet? As soon as the words came out, she was annoyed. How could there be so many reasons for a gift between lovers? She didn't need to ask too much in case she lost the hazy beauty. What should I do? I was stupid just now. Humph, it must be Cheng who infected me. He must be the one who infected me. One is marked by one's company. Lu Cheng was stunned by the question and didn't know how to answer. Should he say that he just thought it was more beautiful and more suitable? After thinking for a while, he had an idea and said with a cheeky smile, When I'm not with you, this bracelet will hold your hand for me. Yenjika rolled her eyes at him and held his hand. She looked to the side and said, Let's go and eat. I'm so hungry. Seeing that the audience in the cinema was leaving, Lu Cheng had to give up the idea of kissing her completely. He took the girl and went to the stone fish shop nearby. This shop was very special. The fish was first cut into thin slices, and the bones and non-essential parts were boiled with pickled cabbage and other seasonings. Then a wooden barrel was served to the customer. The barrel was lined with specially selected and cleaned stones, and heated until they were boiling hot. Then the fish slices were put on the barrel, and the fish soup was poured in. After a short wait, the fish was ready to eat. The fish meat was tender and fragrant, and the soup was sour and fresh, which was very appetizing. The special way of cooking made Yenjika very interested. When the fish was ready, she couldn't wait to taste the fish slices. After drinking the soup, she said to Lu Cheng proudly, It's really good. The soup is very delicious. Hee, are you hungry? With your dexterous left hand, you can't pick up such thin fish slices. Beg me, I'll help you. Looking at the girl's proud face, Lu Cheng immediately put on a pitiful look. Coach Yen, please do me a favor. I'm dying of hunger. Yenjika nodded proudly and gave him many slices of fish slices and a bowl full of soup. Then she started to satisfy her own appetite. After eating for a while, Lu Cheng raised his head and said, I want to eat. The rice and soup must be very delicious. I think so too. Yenjika was happy as if she had found a bosom friend. The two of them ate 3 small wooden buckets of rice before they were satisfied and slowed down their pace. They then began to talk about various things. By the way, you still don't know Coach Shi's name, right? Yenjika asked with a smile. She couldn't help but play with the bracelet with her right hand. She seemed to like it very much. No one knew whether it was because she really thought it was beautiful, or because the person who gave it to her was the right person. Lu Cheng was very happy to see this, as if his efforts were rewarded. He shook his head and said, I don't know. I was injured that day, so I didn't take the initiative to get the ticket for Coach Shi. I suggested to get it for him, but he refused. I suspect there's something wrong with his full name. Yenjika put on a, I'm a famous detective look. Is Coach Shi a wanted criminal? Lu Cheng blurted out. How is that possible? Have you ever seen a wanted criminal with such a good relationship with the police? And the headmaster wouldn't ask for a master whose background is unknown. Yenjika denied this possibility and guessed with a smile. I suspect his full name is very rustic or funny, which doesn't match his identity as a mighty one with physical invulnerability. That's why he doesn't want us to know. That makes sense. Is his name Shi? Lu Cheng guessed happily. They didn't leave until it was almost 8 o'clock. The restaurant was priced at ordinary prices, so with Lu Cheng's appetite, they only ate a little more than 200 yuan. In order to catch the last bus back to the new campus, Lu Cheng didn't propose to take a walk nearby to help with digestion. Instead, he accompanied Yenjika by the roadside, waiting for the arrival of the online taxi. At this time, he remembered that there was a flower shop dozens of meters away. After the gift, I need to give her a bunch of flowers to make it perfect. Lu Cheng looked at his phone and found that the online taxi would take at least 6 or 7 minutes to arrive because of the traffic jam. He pointed to the daily supermarket behind him and said, I'll buy some snacks for you. Through their daily chat, he was sure that Yenjika wasn't allergic to pollen. No, I have a bunch of them at my place. They're all from you. Yenjika shook her head. Lu Cheng bought them online, but he didn't think they were official gifts. Well, I'll go buy a bottle of water. I'm a little thirsty. You wait here for the taxi. Lu Qing suggested deliberately. Okay, hurry up. Yenjika nodded with a smile. Under her gaze, Lu Qing entered the daily supermarket and quickly bought a bottle of water. While Yenjika was looking back at the online taxi, he ran to the flower shop dozens of meters away. His speed was so fast that he felt it was no less than a pouncing attack in a martial arts competition. 11 roses, Lu Qing shouted while taking out his wallet. Pack it simply. ASAP. Just pack it. Even better if there is a finished product. After paying, he took the roses, put them on his back and ran back to the place where he waited for the taxi. Yenjika was looking at the daily supermarket in confusion. She felt that Lu Qing was too slow and suspected that he really went to buy snacks. How did you come back from there? Yenjika asked in surprise when she saw Lu Qing approaching. Lu Qing calmed down and said with a smile. Beauty, you dropped another thing. Your flowers. He stretched out his left hand in front of him, not giving Yenjika a chance to guess. Yenjika's mouth was half open, and her eyes moved. She couldn't help laughing. I seem to have dropped a lot of things today. She held the flowers with both hands, and her eyebrows and eyes were full of joy. Lu Qing laughed and said, Yeah, you also dropped your boyfriend. Do you want to take it back? While speaking, he stretched out his left hand. Humph, you're reluctant. Yenjika held the flowers in her left hand, and Lu Qing in her right. For the first time, she took the initiative to intertwine their fingers. They successfully caught the last bus at 8:45. Yenjika looked radiant and held the roses in her hand. When Lu Qing held her hand and walked to the empty seats in the back row, he felt the complicated gazes of many male students. Two of them in the first row looked very pale, as if they were dead. Lu Qing secretly remembered it and pulled Yenjika, who was looking out of the window, to the second row from the back. He lowered his voice and said, Did those two guys chase after you? Yenjika hit him with both anger and amusement. You still ask? She thought for a moment and said in a low voice. One of the boys in my school chased me, but I rejected him. He was actually a good guy, but I just didn't like him. You like guys like me? Lu Qing was secretly proud and smiled. The other one also seems to have a crush on you. I don't know. Anyway, he didn't mention it. It's good to be seen directly. I hope they can find their own girl soon. Yenjika gave her blessing. In that row of seats, the two boys looked at each other and sighed together. When they returned to the new campus, the night breeze was cool, refreshing and cold. Seeing that it was not yet 9:30, and that he hadn't completely given up on his first kiss today, Lu Qing tried his last effort and said, It's still early. Let's go for a walk by the lake to digest. As soon as he finished speaking, he wanted to slap himself. What kind of excuse was this? Dinner had been over for so long. How could he digest it? Furthermore, it wasn't early at this time. Feeling guilty, he didn't dare to look at her. Through her hands, Lu Qing felt that Yenjika's pulse suddenly sped up and slightly trembled. Are you cold? He asked with concern. Yenjika lowered her eyes and looked to the side. She answered softly, Not cold. Well, a walk is good. Okay. Lu Qing was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect the girl to agree. It seemed that she was in a good mood because of the date today. She wanted to stay with him for a while. He took the girl into the road leading to the lake. While chatting, they slowly walked farther and farther along the lake. Gradually, there was no one around. Thump, thump, thump. Lu Qing's heartbeat suddenly sped up. He was thinking about what excuse to find and what opportunity to create. This made his mouth dry and tongue dry. He didn't know what to say and fell into an abnormal silence. Yenjika didn't say anything either. She seemed to be enjoying the silence. Thump, thump, thump. Lu Qing's heart beat faster and faster. However, he also heard Yenjika's heartbeat faster and faster. He heard her body couldn't stop trembling. Is she afraid that I will do something bad? Or is she not used to dating in the dark? Lu Qing swallowed his saliva and turned to Yenjika with difficulty. He asked nervously, Is it too dark here? After that, he wanted to slap himself again. The streetlights were high up. How was it dark? At this moment he saw Yenjika lowered her head. Her cheeks were flushed under the light. She was shy and timid. The girl slightly opened her mouth and said in a low voice. It was like a small hand scratching Lu Cheng's heart. Lu Cheng held his breath. He felt that the girl was extremely beautiful. His heart was surging. He pulled her into his arms. A hug shouldn't make her angry, right? He had hugged her before. Yenjika didn't struggle. She leaned into Lu Cheng's arms softly. Her long black eyelashes trembled slightly, covering her eyes. Smelling the fragrance of hair and flowers, feeling the girl's delicate body, and looking at this seductive scene, Lu Cheng's mind buzzed. Blood rushed to his head. Slowly, he lowered his head and moved closer to the girl's lips. Don't refuse. He prayed silently. Yenjika's eyelids fluttered and slowly closed. Her pretty face was flushed red. Touching skin, Lu Cheng's heart beat fast. He was very excited. Yenjika's body was tight at first, then relaxed. She completely snuggled in Lu Cheng's arms. The bouquet of flowers in her hand fell to the ground. You big pervert. After a long time, Yenjika was too shy to look up. She clenched her fist and hit the place where Lu Cheng's chest and shoulder met. Lu Cheng panted. He was more tired than after beating Wei Xingtian. But he was very satisfied. He was so excited that he felt like he was flying to the sky. He enjoyed the girl's gentle hit. He smiled and didn't respond. He was like an old cat that had stolen a fish. Hee, the first kiss was so sweet and beautiful. After a long time, Yenjika slowly calmed down. She still didn't dare to look up. Let's go back. Wait a minute. I want to hug you again. Lu Cheng replied gently, but his expression was a little embarrassed. The real reason for not going back immediately was that he had set up a tent below. If he moved, it would be exposed immediately. The girl would definitely think that he was a big hooligan with impure thoughts. He thought in distress. He felt that he was wronged. He didn't think about anything just now. He was wholeheartedly thinking about tasting Yenjika's little mouth. He didn't have any dirty thoughts at all. Sigh. I'm in the stage of a young man full of vigor. Because of practicing martial arts, my chi and blood have reached a certain level. It's just a kiss and I've set up a tent for a long time. He bent down, sucked in his stomach, and arched his buttocks back. He didn't want the girl to notice the abnormality of his lower body. A sentence that he once saw flashed in his mind. You have to know how to cherish the age, when you'll be hard for a long time just by kissing. In order not to arouse the girl's suspicion, he silently prayed to all the gods and Buddhas. With the help of the Jindan, he concealed his spirit and chi and visualized the scene of water turning into ice. But this was no longer lake water. It was boiling water. In Yenjika's dormitory, the three girls Li Liantong, Zhong Yinru, and Shi Xiangyang returned to their own dormitory after watching The Amazing Wizard in the school cinema and chatting about the plot. Hey, Ka hasn't come back yet? Shi Xiangyang asked in surprise. Li Liantong chuckled and said, It's a date. Besides watching movies and eating, there must be other things to do. Yesterday, I specifically told Ke that boys like to suggest going to the lake to enjoy the scenery, or to take a walk in the woods. When there's no one around and it's dark and windy at night, they can take advantage of her. I told her not to believe the nonsense of boys, and let them take her to those places to kiss and touch her body. Yes. With my reminder, she'll definitely be alert, and won't let that guy get what he wants easily. Humph, how dare he not please us? While they were talking, Yenjika pushed open the door, and came in with flowers in her hand. Her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes were glowing. She was so beautiful that people didn't dare to look at her directly. Seeing that she was still blushing and her eyes were intoxicating, Li Liantong asked worriedly and nosily, Ku, don't tell me you were still taken to the lake to enjoy the scenery, or to take a walk in the woods by that guy? I spent so much effort to teach her. Yenjika's pretty face turned redder. She turned her head and looked to the side. She said firmly, No. We went to the lake to take a walk, not to enjoy the scenery. Li Liantong looked at her suspiciously. Suddenly, her attention was attracted by the colorful gold bracelet on her wrist. She asked curiously, I remember that you don't wear a bracelet when you go out. Did he give it to you? Yes. Yenjika breathed a sigh of relief and looked down at the bracelet. Her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes reappeared. It's quite ordinary. Li Liantong commented with arms crossed. But for a straight man's aesthetic standards, it's not bad to have such standards. Yenjika rubbed the heart-shaped bracelet and smiled. She nodded slightly and said, "Yes, I think it's okay," she said to herself silently. "Anyway, I like it very much. The most important thing is the thought." Zhong Yinru also smiled and said, "It's fine as long as it's not ugly. Ku, you'll have to teach his aesthetic standards slowly in the future." Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled lightly. She didn't say anything. Her right hand touched her lips subconsciously, and she recalled the experience just now. Her cheeks burned again, and her eyes slightly lost focus, as if she was drunk. After sending the girl back to the dormitory, Lu Qing logged into QQ with his mobile phone and sent her a happy emoji. Then he walked through the pedestrian street with light steps, while recalling the sweetness of his first kiss. Life is so beautiful. Chapter 145. After returning to the dormitory of the 7th building, Lu Qing finally calmed down a little after the cold night wind. He was no longer so excited and intoxicated. When he woke up, he suddenly had a lot of worries. Would this progress be too fast for Yenjika? Would she be unable to accept it? Would she resist it psychologically? Would she think that he was too impatient and focus more on the physical than the emotional level? He had thought about these things before, so the plan of the first kiss was more of a test. When he really succeeded, he was a little worried about the gains and losses. He was afraid that he would ruin the girl's impression of him. But at that moment, he really couldn't control himself. He wasn't facing another girl, but the girl he loved. She was shy and timid, ready to let him do whatever he wanted. If he couldn't control himself, he would be worse than a beast. Lu Qing found a corner of the flower bed and sat down. Holding the phone, he thought about whether he should apologize to Yenjika or not. No, apologizing after kissing her is not a man's responsibility. It will make the girl think that I just want to take advantage of her. I need to show a responsible attitude and treat her better. Although there were a lot of comments on the internet, such as women can't marry, men can't marry, and sex is normal, Lu Qing felt that he might be a conservative person who hadn't experienced too many setbacks in society. After holding her hand and kissing her lips, he would think of words like forever, and so on. While he was thinking, his QQ beeped. Yenjika replied to him with a happy emoji and said, "I don't talk to you, big pervert." Seeing such a reply, Lu Qing was not surprised but happy. He felt that the girl was more angry than angry. He was relieved and replied with a pitiful expression, "I couldn't control myself at the moment." At the moment. Yenjika sent an emoji of rolling its eyes at the sky. "Humph, I thought about it carefully. I think you have a premeditated plan. Tell me the truth. Did you have bad intentions when you asked me to take a walk by the lake?" How could she see through this? Lu Qing blushed and felt very guilty. He was glad that the girl wasn't with him through the phone. He thought for a while and decided to be honest. He told the girl his thoughts and did not try to hide anything. "Yes. Not only did I want to kiss you when we went to the lakeside, but I also wanted to kiss you in the movie theater. But I saw that you were too focused on the movie, so I didn't have the heart to disturb you. I couldn't find a chance. Maybe guys are more impulsive and impatient, so they always want to get closer to you. Also, when you accepted my confession, didn't you say that you still needed time to get used to it? That you weren't ready to have another person in your life, and that you weren't at the stage where you especially liked me?" "I'm not trying to pressure you. I'm just afraid that you'll leave me one day and tell me that I should return to my original position. That's why I'm always eager for more certainty and confirmation." He carefully typed the paragraph and changed a few of the words in order to more accurately describe his feelings. He still remembered Xiaoming's words. In the world of love, it was better to be honest than to hide, and it was better to communicate than to sulk. After sending the message, Yenjika remained silent for a while before replying with 2 words. "Idiot, idiot?" Lu Qing was a little confused by her words, but he soon realized what she was implying. "Idiot. If I wasn't used to it and wasn't prepared, would I let you kiss me without resistance? Idiot. Do I have to say that I really like you for you to understand? Idiot. Don't let your imagination run wild by yourself. Lu Cheng was surprised and happy at the same time. He felt that he had touched the girl's heart. He hurriedly replied, "Yes, I'm an idiot, a big idiot. I can clearly feel the changes between us, but I'm still worried and can't believe it. Humph, it's good that you understand." Yenjika sent an emoji of hitting the head and said, "I'll forgive you this time, big pervert. Don't kiss me casually in the future." I can't kiss you casually?" Lu Cheng snickered and regained his composure. He quickly typed, "Yes, yes, yes. I won't do it casually." After chatting for a while, and confirming the time and place for tomorrow's meal, Yenjika hurriedly urged Lu Cheng to wash up when she saw that it was almost 10:30. She didn't want to delay his sleep and affect tomorrow's training. Lu Cheng returned to the dormitory while humming a little song. Kai Zhongming jokingly scolded Lu Cheng, flushed with success and looking lascivious. When he was ready, he got into bed and picked up his phone to say goodnight to Yenjika. He saw that the girl had sent him 3 voice messages a few minutes ago. Lu Cheng opened them in confusion and put the phone to his ear, switching it to the receiver mode. "Fu Cheng, be my trash can. Just listen and don't answer." Yenjika's soft and clear voice came from the phone. The environment around her seemed to be empty and quiet, mixed with the sound of the wind. "She's on the balcony." Lu Cheng made a positive judgment and continued to listen. "I'm scared. When I give up resistance and choose to accept completely, I'm full of uneasiness about the future. Cheng, can we go all the way to the end? Can we hold each other's hands and go through the trials and tribulations one after another, until our hair turns white and we can't speak clearly, and still cuddle together? I'm scared. I'm scared that I'll be defeated by reality in the end when I put my heart and all my feelings into it. I can only watch you go away in pain and melancholy. If that happens, I feel that my heart will be very painful, so painful that it will be like dying. They say that first love can't go all the way to the end. I'm so worried. I'm worried that one day the person who will marry me won't be you. What a nightmare that will be. Okay, I'm done with the negative feelings. I've never thought about things like this before. It's all your fault." Lu Cheng listened quietly. He felt that all the voices in the dormitory had faded away. His heart was clear, and his eyes were slightly red. He took a breath and didn't listen to Yenjika's words. He made his own answer. "I'm scared too. I'm also scared of such a future. But if we don't even have the courage to try, then we're doomed to miss it. Only by trying and working hard can we have hope. I'm working hard to practice martial arts and strengthen myself. I want to be able to grasp my destiny and grasp that opportunity and that hope. Although it's funny to say this at my age, I still have to say this. I have confidence in myself and in my love. I'm destined to be you in this life." After a while, Yenjika sent a scolding emoji. "I told you not to reply. Go to sleep, you big pervert." Lu Cheng smiled and immediately said, "Good night." "Good night, see you tomorrow." Yenjika seemed to have forgotten the confession and answered just now. "See you tomorrow." After sending this message, Lu Cheng patiently waited for the girl's reply. He had a hunch that the girl would have other replies. After a full 10 minutes, he finally saw Yenjika's new message. "Well, I'll work hard too." After reading the message seriously for a few minutes, Lu Cheng's lips curled into a smile as he fell asleep. The next day, he followed the routine of morning exercise, special training, shower, change, and then ran to the door of the female locker room and waited for Yenjika to come out. The weather was unusually cold. Yenjika was dressed like a cute bear. When she saw Lu Cheng, she snorted and turned her head to the side. She hummed and said, "Pervert. Big pervert." Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh. He reached out his left hand and held her delicate palm. Yes, 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 I'm your exclusive pervert." "What are you talking about?" Yenjika didn't expect Lu Cheng to be so thick-skinned. She was speechless for a moment and quickly changed the topic. "Let me tell you about the other 2 roommates. One is called Li Liantong. We all call her Dirty Tong." While talking and laughing, the 2 left the martial arts arena and walked to the teaching building. They planned to go through there, get on the long bridge, and return to the pedestrian street in the dormitory area. They would then go to the Academy restaurant to meet Zhong Yinru and the others. As they walked, Lu Cheng and Yinjika found a group of people in front of them. They were all looking up at the roof, so they followed them out of curiosity. They were surprised to see a boy they didn't know standing outside the window of the 7th floor, looking down. Jumping off the building, Yinjika held Lu Cheng's hand tightly and said in a trembling voice. This was the first time she encountered such a thing. Before Songqing University moved to the new campus, 1 or 2 students jumped off the building every year. After moving here, nothing happened for more than half a year. It was said that the principal once said that the feng shui here was good. He didn't expect that someone would make the first jump today. Lu Qing thought quickly. He took a breath and said to Yinjika, "You stay away. I'll go and take a look." "Okay, be careful." Yinjika understood Lu Qing's idea and reminded him. When Lu Qing approached, he saw the boy's pale face smile and jumped down decisively. Damn! Lu Qing cursed in his heart. He put strength in his legs and jumped forward to the position he judged. Ignoring the injury on his right arm, he stretched out his hands in the midst of the exclamations. Bang! Under Yinjika's worried gaze, Lu Qing caught the boy who was about to jump off the building. As soon as he touched the boy, his feet suddenly pressed inward, causing cracks to appear on the concrete floor. The violent force bounced back. He straightened his back, lowered his arms, pulled them back, and then shook them out. The boy who fell straight down was thrown to a place not far away. His face was full of fear and confusion, as if he had finally woken up from a nightmare. Lu Qing exhaled. He felt that his sneakers were about to be destroyed, and the injury on his right arm was a little more serious. But no matter what, these were not as important as a human life. Seeing the teachers and security guards surrounding them, and the onlookers staring at him, and the boy who was about to jump off the building, Lu Qing said loudly, "I'm not even afraid of death. What's there to be afraid of?" After saying that, he turned around and left. He met Yinjika outside the 2 schools, hiding his achievements and fame. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.